Good afternoon, everyone. We're live and welcome. I've got a special guest today, and his name is Todd.LIVE, and he's fresh off his outing, I'll call it, or experience last week at VidSummit 2018. And boy, what an experience that was. And I wasn't there, but I was consuming it through the live stream and through the YouTube IRL in real life experience, and it was something special, and we're going to talk about that today. So everyone, I'd like to welcome in Todd. Good afternoon, Todd.
Hey Gord, how's it going? Thanks for having me on today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and I'm very excited, and I was totally amazed by watching this year, seeing what was going on at VidSummit in such a different way, in that I was remote. And I had a lot of the experience like I had as if I was there because of the in real life live stream. And before we get going, I just wanted to mention to everybody that Todd is, very into live streaming and podcasting. And I think, Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, or I'm guessing, you have between your two podcast shows, over 600 episodes in the last year combined. Is that right?
I think so. I think you're right. I might be pushing 700. I looked last night. Wow. Yeah. It's growing fast because I got 2 daily podcasts. So at the end of a calendar year, I'm going to be almost at 800 podcasts.
That's incredible. It's just unfathomable to me, and we're going to talk about that as part of our discussion today. And just to get going, I'd like to see if anyone out in the chat space there. I see we have Video Zeus. Can you hear us okay and see everything fine? Video Zeus, can you give us a little confirmation? That would be greatly appreciated. So we'll see as that goes. And so Todd, I mean, that's incredible. So when you were going to VidSummit, yeah, Video Zeus hears us fine, because he says you're producing a hell of a lot of content, and that's for sure. So so Todd, you were there at VidSummit last year, and I remember, I think I met you first in the Roberto Blake's lecture in one of the halls on the main floor, one of the lecture rooms there, and I remember like the amount of people that were there, and it was, there was a great buzz, and it was an incredible experience for me. But this year it just seemed like there were that much more people, and a lot more influencers and special guests, like the Peter McKinnons of the world, and Gary Vee was back. So can you just first give us your thought about the lineup and what you felt about that and your experience with that?
Yeah, well, and I have to be careful because I get VidCon and VidSummit mixed up, and they're two totally different shows, but I have the tendency to call VidSummit VidCon. So just kind of an asterisk on this whole episode. If I ever say VidCon, please know I'm saying VidSummit. Because when I start talking fast and I get them confused, and I've done that a lot. VidSummit 2017, I think was a great show. I had an incredible time. I met you. I met, I think that's where I met Ross Brand I met Ross Brand the first time at Summit Live in Los Angeles. So I had already met Ross. I don't know if I met Nez there or not, or if I met him at Summit Live, but anyway, I met new people at VidSummit 2017. I couldn't put a list together of who I met at that show aside from you, because I know I met you there. But I think that in the first year that I went, I didn't know as many people. Okay. This year I went, I knew tons of people, and I knew who tons of people were or are. And I don't know if this year was just that much better, like the lineup was just greatly improved, or it's just my awareness of who is who was greatly improved over the last year. So I can't really pinpoint it, but I will say that the lineup this year from the top down seemed to be much stronger than last year. First of all, last year they had Gary Vaynerchuk speak. He was the main keynote. And this year they kind of had two main keynotes, if you will. They had on Thursday, they had Gary Vaynerchuk speak before lunch. And then there was a lunch with Gary Vaynerchuk if you upgraded to do that. And then after lunch, Peter McKinnon came on. I mean, these are two super heavyweights. I mean, the only way they could maybe round this out is to have a trifecta and somehow get Casey Neistat to show up and have, 3 hours of just epic, awesome video creators, entrepreneurs, that sort of a thing. But I mean, it was fabulous this year. A lot of good speakers. I saw a lot of people in the hallway that I know or that I've wanted to meet.
And this year, Todd, you've gone to a number of conferences this year, right?
Yes.
And one of the things I was hoping for you to give us a little perspective on was, I think you went to, I think you said you went to VidCon, you've been to Social Media Marketing World, VidSummit, and I'm sure I've missed a few others. And like, can you position this in terms of a learning experience and why you recommend going to something like VidSummit?
Yeah. Look, I recommend going. There's a lot of people in our space, creators, who it's expensive. We're all struggling to make money and get our businesses moving. And I get all that. And it's hard to justify the expense when a conference is $600-700 before you even factor in airfare and hotel room. I tend to go to conferences where I live more than anything. I did travel for Sean Cannell's Grow with Video Live, but that's not a terribly expensive trip coming from Southern California. But most of the conferences I've been to have all been here in Southern California, whether it's LA, Orange County, or San Diego. So that helps me a lot because I'm not paying for the airfare. That aside, look, if you're not at these conferences, or if you don't go to any, or if you don't go to the ones that truly make sense, then you're not meeting people. And there's a lot of value to meeting people who are in the network, who are in the creator environment. And, if you want to collaborate with people, if you want to have doors open or have opportunities to speak or to just be known, to just be known by people, it's very important to attend things. Funny enough, though, I'm friends with Stephanie Liu, and I've never met Stephanie in person. She tags me to a lot of her content. Right. She knows I'm in live video. I think she's, we have a mutual respect, Stephanie and I do. We both are tech geeks when it comes to this stuff. And so this is kind of a rare exception where you can have this kind of great relationship having never met. It's just all over the internet. But I do think that meeting in person, offline, having an opportunity to have a sandwich, go to lunch, whatever, sit in the lounge and have a drink, maybe attend some conferences together, work the hall together. I do this kind of thing with Mike Vardy. I do it with Ross Brand, Professor Nez, Reezy Resells. I've done it some with Laurent Segev, the techie guy who I met, who is with vidIQ.
Laurent's in the Awesome Creator Academy that I belong to as well.
Yeah. To see these people in person, it's important for you in so many ways. It's important for you personally, but it's also important for you in the community at large because, when I show up at these things, people are looking forward to seeing me. I'm starting to have a network of people that I regularly communicate with and who I regularly see at these conferences. And we have gotten to where we really enjoy each other, whether we're talking business or whether we're just, talking fun stuff, personal stuff. And you just don't want to miss out on these things. The networking is insanely important. And I'm kind of a convention, for lack of a better word, I call myself a convention whore. I just go to them all. I can't get enough of them,
and because you're so local to several of the events there in California, I get to just follow up with a chat with Todd. And first, I before we go further, I'd like to thank everyone that's here. There's Shannon Vlogs, Michael Daniels, and Video Zeus. And hey, if you have any questions for Todd about the conference, please put them in the chat, and we're going to be happy to deal with it. To talk about it. So Todd, I heard an interesting comment from Evan Carmichael on Instagram the other day, and he said, he spent a few days in VidSummit and he didn't really have time to go to any lectures. He spent his whole time, he said, in the halls helping entrepreneurs in helping them, learn things and help them to be better entrepreneurs in their business and using video and succeeding. And it inspired him so the fact that he actually didn't have an opportunity to attend much and was so into serving the people that he's now starting in like another show on Instagram Instagram Live, where he's actually going to serve the entrepreneur and deal with questions and bring them into a live. And I know you like to do the live experience, so I was like amazed to see how this thread is evolving. And I would think, you know, how can you go to these conferences and really get the max out of it without, you know, investing in the replays? Because like you said, it's really about making the connections, you know, exploring opportunities, talking about what like-minded people are doing, you know, and what challenges they have. How did you feel about that? Did you feel like a tug, like, you know, I should be in all of these sessions, or you felt okay with it? Like, what did you feel about that?
Well, it just depends. I mean, there's sessions that I want to go to because they're friends of mine. Sometimes it's tough to decide between sessions to go to or be out in the hallway. And it really is one of those things that I don't plan out. Like I had planned to attend Owen Video's conference on marketing your business with live video.
Yeah.
You know, whether or not I'd learn a whole lot in that one, because Owen and I do a lot of the same kind of stuff. And, you know, I probably would learn some nuggets here and there, but, you know, I go to support Owen. I'm a big fan of Owen. I'm a good friend of his. I respect what he does and I love his hustle. And I wanted to go to his conference, but, you know, I think when we were talking the other day, I told you that I was wandering the halls looking for somebody in particular. And I happened upon an area where Michael Stelzner, Carlos Gill, and Mitch Dong, who works for Michael Stelzner, were sitting. And Michael Stelzner actually, he kind of waved at me and said, "Hey, Todd, you know, he could tell I was looking for somebody. Who are you looking for?" And I said, well, I'm looking for my friend Reezy. I thought he'd be out here. He spent a lot of time on the deck. And he said, well, hey, if you're not doing anything, feel free to sit down and hang out with us. Well, you know, so I missed Owen's conference because I got an invite by Michael Stelzner to sit at his table and hang out with him and Carlos Gill and Mitch. So, you know, things sometimes happen, and opportunity presents itself. And I haven't had a lot of time to meet and spend. I've met Carlos Gill on a couple of occasions, but I haven't really had any time to sit and chat with him. Michael, I've gotten to know because I was on his podcast, and then Michael O'Neill showed up, and I've met Michael O'Neill on a couple of occasions, but he had his computer and was showing us some really cool stuff. So, you know, I missed Owen's conference for good reason, but I try to attend conferences for the people who support me greatly in particular, because I want to show it back to them. I like to watch their style. I mean, Owen has a style that can't be duplicated. Like his energy level, his enthusiasm, his quick wit, his ability to tell jokes and laugh and have fun without crossing the line or making someone uncomfortable. Like that's an art. Like if I tried to be as affable and fun as he was, I'd probably end up ticking a lot of people off one way or the other, saying something
Owen has just at times energy that's off the dial, and it's amazing how he manages to keep it all together, as you say, because it's so you know, peak. I don't know how to describe it. It's potent.
Right. Well, I mean, and so it just would depend on what was going on. If I, you know, in between, there's always conferences that I don't care to hear. And so I go wander the hall, and if something starts up in the hall, then maybe I miss a conference I wanted to hear. I've got it all in replay, but I just look for opportunity, and the show, there's, you know, the tide kind of goes in and out. So there's moments where the hallways are really bustling with a lot to get involved in, and there's other times where there's not. And a time when there's not is when Gary Vaynerchuk or Peter McKinnon's on stage.
Or whoever.
Nothing's going on in the hallway then. But there might be I don't want to name people who might not draw in a crowd like that. Everybody there pretty much drew a pretty good crowd. But, you know, there are going to be presentations that don't draw as many people in as others. And so you can kind of play it.
Shannon shared here that she particularly enjoyed Steve Dotto's session. And I think you were at that one, right?
I was.
Yeah.
And that was a tough morning because there was one of my favorite speakers of all is Paul Colligan, and he's a podcast guy, and he's up in Portland, Oregon, and he spoke at the same time Steve Dotto did. I've heard Paul speak, and I've heard Steve Dotto speak. So it was a tough call there. And then there was a third person, I think, that was speaking during that hour. I can't remember the person's name, but I think that's the hour where somebody was talking about YouTube keyword research, and people came out of that thing, including Michael O'Neill. That's what he was showing us on his computer when I was out with Stelzner, was things he had learned. I think it was that hour. The YouTube keyword was apparently just an absolutely dazzling show. I went to Steve's show because I know Steve. I've met him on numerous occasions. I've had lunch and breakfast with him, and I see him around on a lot of these shows. So I want to support him. He was talking about Patreon, which I don't know much about. I know he's been successful with that, so I wanted to learn something there. So it was a tough decision, but it was an easy decision by virtue of the fact that I did buy the pass, so I can go listen to Paul Colligan later. I can go listen to this YouTube keyword person later, and I got to go support Steve and see his show because Steve's phenomenal.
Yeah. Oh, I hope to meet Steve one day. I think I'm the same age as Steve, and he does a lot of talking about the boomer generation, and just in his vlog he brings out issues like ageism, YouTube, and what it's like to be an entrepreneur in our age bracket, and he's been at this for quite a while, pivoting out of broadcasting into the YouTube way, and obviously doing amazingly well. And so there's a lot of good stuff to share from Steve, and that's why I'd love to have a chat with him on this level, and that'll be cool. One day I will.
Well, and just prepare yourself, because if you start talking business with Steve, there's no sugarcoating or kids gloves. Like if he's interested in something you're doing, like we were sitting in the bar area, Steve and I think Paul Colligan was there, Mike Vardy, maybe a couple of others. And Paul was talking podcasting and was asking me about my podcast. And I think Steve said, asked me, are you monetizing your podcast? And I said, I want to monetize it by selling my own courses and whatever. I'm not really worried about getting advertisers and getting, finances from other places.
Right.
And he just kind of came right at me like a bull, like why? And and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I need to then. But he's just, he's very professional. He knows what he's doing. And so he always does great. I'll tell you, I saw him this year at Social Media Marketing World, and they did this huge musical on stage to open up the show, and Steve was in it, and he was fabulous. I mean, if you could, I don't know if it's on YouTube, but Amy Landino was singing. There were like 20 people up on stage. It was a musical. They actually put on a musical, and Steve was in it, and he was fabulous.
Oh, that's cool. So what can you share a lesson that Steve shared with you about monetization? Like, obviously you have so many episodes, your opportunity for exposure, sharing call to actions or opportunities to learn more from Todd are plentiful. And I just want to qualify the question by saying that Steve also has a team. So all of a sudden, when we're beyond the single guy, like I am running my show, I think your sense of accountability and focus on return, because you're also supporting other people to deliver and execute. So do you have anything you can share on that topic with us? As far as monetizing the podcasting, here's where I'm coming from. When I went to Podcast Movement, and as far as podcasting goes, that show was a pivotal moment for me. Oh, really? And this doesn't have anything to do with Steve, although it kind of has to do with why I don't look at the monetizing the podcast the way he does exactly. But at Podcast Movement, I met a lot of new people and heard about what they were doing, and everybody was kind of like, yeah, I got to find a way to get advertisers. I got to find a way. And so if you're running with the herd in podcasting, you've got your shorts in a knot trying to figure out who's going to sponsor and pay you for an ad spot in your show, a mid-roll or a pre or post-roll ad or something like that. And it seemed to me that there were two speakers. There's two people who I heard at Podcast Movement. I think it was 16. One was Michael Stelzner and one was Cliff Ravenscraft. And I'm a friend of Cliff Ravenscraft's, and I took his course early on because I wanted to have like a big jump start on the tech. Right.
And if you ask Cliff how, he could probably tell you how to go about getting sponsors, but that might not be his forte. His forte is building classes of his own and promoting them on his show. And then when I saw Michael Stelzner, and he talks about that in his presentations when he talks about podcasting and monetization of a podcast. And when I was at Podcast Movement 2017, Michael Stelzner was on a panel, and somebody asked him, for monetizing social media marketing, the social media marketing podcast, how do you go about getting sponsors? Well, this person must not listen to social media marketing podcast because it doesn't have sponsors. Okay. They just raising their hand and asking this question that was irrelevant because he doesn't have sponsors. And he just flat out said, I'll never take sponsors on my show. I create my conference. I create other products or things that I do that make money, and I'll promote those in my show. Why would I want to put an ad for somebody else so I take a small percentage of the money that they make when I can take 100% by promoting my own stuff?
Right.
So that's been my goal. And I told Steve that.
Yeah, and I think that in itself is a very, very big thing, because you have the opportunity to share with people the opportunities they have to, get more of Todd and learn and grow and get skills that they need. And it's stuff you're sharing in education with them, regularly, so they're getting to know you. And I think there isn't a better forum than your own show, right?
Right. Now, even and Paul kind of echoed that. I remind you that Mike Vardy was there, and he's got a podcast, and he's got a really good listener base on his podcast. And Mike talked about how he can get some advertisers. Maybe he has, I can't remember, but Paul said, well, Mike, with the kind of podcast you have, you should be promoting your own courses, and that's it. Monetize your own stuff. And so you're not running with the herd if you're monetizing by creating your own courses and having people purchase things directly from you. And I think and so as I forge my way into the future with my podcasts, if companies contact me and say, hey, we want to do some advertising, we like what you're doing, I'll consider it. I might even do it, but I'm not after that. And I think Steve is getting into podcasting. I think
he did a vlog, I think, this past weekend, mentioning that he's giving it another go-round, serious consideration. And didn't Paul share some interesting statistics? Do you want to share some of what that was about? Yeah,
so Paul, from his presentation that morning, I can't wait to go back and watch it in replay. I just haven't had a chance yet, but he had all the screenshots in his iPad, and he was showing them to us. And it's really interesting because he would take an interview that he did in video. Now, I can't remember if he said it was live video or if it was recorded video, but he would do a video, and that actually makes a difference probably.
Right.
But so he would record his podcast in a video format and rip the audio off the video, off the file. And so he would watch his video stats like a month later, and his video stats would, by like 40 seconds into the video, almost the whole audience had dropped off and gone away. Wow. But on the exact same content without the video in an audio format on his podcast, he had like practically 100% retention to the very end.
Wow.
So and that right there, I remember.
That's very telling.
It is. And when he did that, because I think Steve's been kicking around. I don't want you all to think that I know Steve extremely well. I know Steve from a few conferences, and I've had the pleasure of hanging out with him, added up a couple of hours. And I feel like I've gotten to know him pretty good, but we're not like buddies where we talk behind the scenes, but I do get from Steve that he's been kicking around the podcast idea. And I think Paul's information that he was scrolling and showing us was huge. It had a big impact on Steve. And I think it's probably going to push him over the edge on, hey, I've got to get some audio content out there, because
it's funny, sorry to interrupt there, Todd.
That's all right.
What I find so fascinating about audio is that I myself, as a consumer, when I'm listening to something, I'm like either out on a walk or I'm exercising, and I'm only doing, I'm calling it one other thing. And I'm saying that because when I watch a video, most of the time for me, I have my browser open. I've got 10 or 15 tabs there. I may pause a video, pop over to something else, look at some Facebook, go to Instagram, and get just distracted all over the place without staying focused sometimes to finish through with a video. And oftentimes I end up abandoning it. And I think you're much more captive in a car or out exercising. And when you're listening to audio, I think it's easier to, for lack of a better word, surrender to the experience and really enjoy it with focus,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've been doing podcasting for almost 3 years. Well, maybe 2.5. Yeah, almost 3 years, maybe. And the two podcasts that I have going right now, which are daily. So, some of your people are asking, wow, we should all be podcasting. I think it's definitely something to consider. I started out doing podcasting that were 1 hour interview shows. And sometimes they would be recorded live, and I would record the audio as well. But I got to a point where I realized that the 1 hour shows are nice, but you can't do a 1 hour show daily. And to do even a 1 hour show weekly is a lot of work. It's a lot of time and trouble, and inviting people to come on. So I had 2 1 hour shows. One of them I did for like 40 episodes, 40 weeks or something like that. And then one of them I only did for about 10 weeks. That was, if even that was the live video and podcast combo. And boy, that was a lot of work just putting that thing together. And I just decided this is way too much work for what I'm getting out of it at the end of the day. So I took some time off from podcasting last year, and I was at VidSummit, and Gary Vaynerchuk said that, and I already knew this, but Gary Vaynerchuk, his quote was something along the lines of, podcasting today, you know, he had people raise their hand. Who thinks podcasting is outdated and going away? A lot of people raise their hands. He goes, podcasting today is, you know, like if you start a podcast today, it's kind of like you've moved to Malibu back when California was being founded, and you got beachfront real estate before other people started showing up. And he said the audio and podcasting is that important. Like its best days haven't even been seen yet.
And I remember him citing the aspect that more cars are going to become, podcasting is going to be more accessible in the programming in cars, as well as things like Alexa briefings and all the other digital house toys that we have access to now just lend themselves beautifully to audio experiences, right?
Yeah, and if people want any sort of substantial conversation, like you said, if you do video, you're piddling around with other things. So if somebody's really interested in a certain topic or a certain speaker or whatever, they might have an easier time focusing and giving their attention to something that's in an audio format, because they, you know, you put the earbuds in every day. I'm getting right now anywhere from 400 to 800 downloads a day on my Instagram.
Wow, that's awesome.
So I'm filling a concert hall every day. Now, not all those are individual people. It could be one person downloading 100 episodes and binge listening to it, for all I know. But I think I have around 300 or 400 subscribers. I've been trying to dig into the Apple analytics, which I'm kind of new to. But
so is that volume of download for Grammar School or for Entrepreneur Live?
That's for the Grammar School. The Entrepreneur Live video is not as hot of a podcast as far as downloads go.
Right.
It is growing, and it's actually lately been growing a little bit rapidly. So I'm excited to see that. I mean, it's a third or even maybe a quarter of the Instagram marketing podcast.
So Todd, I want to interrupt everybody who hasn't listened to Todd, who's listening to this broadcast. You got to go enjoy. I listen to your podcasts and I binge watch, and I just love the length and time that they are. I can put it on and you spin through a whole bunch of topics. You know, I can sit there and listen for an hour and cover a number of items. I really find that enjoyable. And I know we're taking a bit of a tangent off of the focus about the conference, but podcasting was a very important element in there. So I want to, because of your experience, just explore a couple of other items before we move into other areas. And that is this whole idea of, you know, well, first one comment, people shouldn't be just fixated on the volume of downloads and sponsorship and be thinking there to start out, right? Because it's not everybody that gets their podcast going and the sponsors are knocking at their doors. Right. So that takes a lot of effort, and it could take even years in many cases to build up that kind of audience to have somebody come knocking at your door. I wanted to make that as one comment, and that shouldn't discourage us from getting our message out there, because it's another way to get people to, you know, like, and trust you and understand your brand and your capabilities, and you know, would they want to work with you? I mean, just the doors that open up are significant because it's a very intimate communication, right?
That it is. And you know, I was going to say that, you know, I started with the 1 hour episodes and I went into that whole thinking mode, and Gary Vaynerchuk, he kind of cemented what I already knew. But I wanted to make my life easy. Okay. Because podcasting takes time. You have to record audio. I was taught to edit the audio, edit the file, and do various things. But I do what's called one take podcasting, and I will record it in one take. And if I don't like it, it's actually easier for me to trash that file and re-record it than it is for me, because it's only my episodes are 5 to 15
minutes. Then expend energy editing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Expend energy editing it and moving the file around. It's just easier for me to just trash that file and re-record it. I mean, there's been times where I've said things and it's like, man, that might not go over well. Like maybe I've said something that had to do with politics or whatever. You know, we all sometimes throw in something we shouldn't. And
or an F-bomb here or there, things like that.
Yeah, I do that anyway. But my podcast is set on explicit. But I wanted short episodes and I wanted daily episodes. Look, the fact is that because of things like Snapchat, because of things like Instagram stories, Instagram in general, where people just scroll really fast and their minds process the images and the videos very, very quickly. Our attention spans are short, and our ability to commit time, like asking somebody to listen, like Gord, if I have you on the show and asking people out there to listen to a discussion on a podcast between me and Gord once a week, or me and a new guest once a week. Yeah. It's a big ask because after a week goes by, you know, life gets in the way. People kind of get detached. I wanted something that was every day. People think about Todd.LIVE every single day. Yeah. So 5 to 15 minute episode, sometimes longer, but I try to make it 5 to 15 on both shows, which allows me to batch the content. So today I recorded 7 episodes this morning, and I'm teaching my wife how to, there's a little bit of editing. We don't, you know, I trash it if it needs to be edited, but I do compress the audio file. So, you know, I'm moving the audio file through Audition for a little bit of compression to kind of bring out the magic and the sound. Sure. Got to add the metadata in iTunes and upload it into Libsyn and schedule it. So my wife is now taking over all that except for the recording of it. And that's going to be a big help to me. But
you have an in-house virtual assistant.
I have an in-house virtual assistant for the time being. So, between now and November 3rd, I'm going to be recording 7 podcasts a day, every single day in the morning when I start my work day, to get me through the end of the year. So I have content. I use evergreen content. And if there's something that's so necessary to talk about today, I'll do a bonus episode and turn on the mic, record something on that day and just publish it in addition to the scheduled one. But the content is designed to be evergreen. So I can batch it and sit down in one day and knock out a week, or sit down. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I podcast all day today, I could knock out a month and a half.
So to help people to appreciate the length of time that you do your segments, what is it? Just because there's just so much more to plan and execute to do one contiguous episode, and then the cleaning of it and other work, that you decided it's far better to have the freedom to do the snack-sized pieces? Like what got you there?
Well, the bite size, it's easy to create, right? I have one topic, and sometimes my episodes, I think I did an episode today that was like 3 minutes long. The intro and outro is a full minute between the two, because it's a half minute on each end. And so if the episode is 3 minutes, then a third of it is the intro and outro. Some days are like that. Then there's some days where I think I had one episode today that went almost 20 minutes. So, you know, it just depends on what it is I'm talking about. And I think that there's people that like both, and I think there's people that like the randomness of it, but they know they can go in, they can binge on it, and get a lot of individual topics really, really quick. It's easy for me to make. The only thing I do prior to the show is write down a title. Yeah. I take no show notes. I do no research. I write down a title because I'm talking about stuff I know. I turn on the microphone and I talk, and that's all I do. And sometimes I get off on wild tangents. That's fine. My audience seems to enjoy it. In one episode, I was talking about how my family is terribly dysfunctional, and I've spent more time talking about the dysfunction in my family, not in my own, under my own roof, but like with my father and other people. But you know, people want to, they enjoy that too. I mean, if they're going to listen to me every day, they want to know who they're listening to. So I don't mind veering off topic on my podcast, but I try to stick to the topic. And I'm even thinking about a third daily podcast because it's therapy to me. I love being in front of the microphone and sending a file out.
I'm so happy you said that word, therapy, because I find that this is an important thing in the whole domain of creating. I've been so intently focused on doing these deep dive tutorials that take a ton of work, because I have to orchestrate from A to Z what I'm going to execute. I have to create specialized examples for it. I have to make sure the value points are all there that I wanted to do it, and some of them are up to 20 minutes long. So I could be spending 3 days to deliver that one piece of content for the week if it's a crazy one. And I get so frustrated at times because I go, I just want to create something like just creative with a blank sheet of paper that has nothing to do with what I'm doing. Although my drive is to help and educate people and give them the skills, don't get me wrong. But every once in a while, I feel like I got to do that. So I'm hoping that I'm going to somehow be able to evolve what I produce and deliver and share to other levels, but I feel a concern about pivoting, risk of pivoting and shifting. I have a diverse channel in terms of, although it's about video, I cover video editing, video marketing, YouTube, and social video. It's quite a broad brush, but it's all about video. But at the same time, I could be doing creative stuff that I just want to share and say, hey, I pulled these things together and came up with that, and people can learn something interesting from it. And I not have to make it a deep dive tutorial, which I've conditioned myself to feel I have to produce. And I think part of that's about speaking to your audience. Do you expend much energy in getting feedback from them?
Yeah, I get a lot of feedback from my audience. I've got a lot of hardcore listeners who do give me regular feedback. I'm sure there's plenty of people that I don't hear from at all, but I believe in this format. I believe in podcasting. I wouldn't be doing 2 daily shows if I didn't. I believe in it as much as live video, but the problem with video is that, the chart just drops off so fast that you've really got to have your video game going to keep people in for the whole thing. I think you do with what you do with your YouTube channel. I mean, your videos are awesome and people come there and they learn, but you've mastered a craft. But with podcasting, I think there's an art there too. You've got to be able to talk. You've got to be able to be happy with the lack of perfectionism. Beth said
Beth.
something. Yeah, she said something about Conan O'Brien, kind of speeding up his. I didn't know that he does that, but I kind of do the same thing. Like when I sit down, I want to record 7 episodes, or when I sit down, I want to record 30. And what happens is the first couple tend to be longer and maybe deeper. And as I get tired, as the day progresses, they kind of get shorter and shorter. So I tell people, if it seems like at the beginning of the month, they're longer and beefier, and at the end of the month, they kind of are shorter and a little thinner. If I seem a little exhausted, I might have recorded that whole month on one day.
Yeah.
But I try to keep the value there, but I'm not looking for perfectionism. I'm not looking for.
And it's funny, I come from a nature of wanting to look for perfectionism, and ironically, I posted a little meme the other day about lemons. I found myself in the supermarket picking lemons, and I spent there like 5 minutes into it, and I go, there is no perfect lemon in the bin here. And I stressed out and I go, this is hilarious. Then I picked one up and said, okay, that's the one I got. Then I go, I can't find another one that looks like it. And then I got stressed and I go, I do the same thing in my editing. If every time I go through a pass on my video, I can find another thing wrong and another thing. And maybe I'll add this and that. So it's just interesting. And to be at the level of, I'll call it prolific content volume generation that you do and quality really means you got to be able to let go of certain things so that it doesn't get in your way. And you do a great job of that. And I like it when you say once in a while, hey folks, I just did this blunder, but I'm still going, let's keep charging ahead, showing, and then you comment, this is what live's about, and people get to know you. It's cool.
Well, yeah,
right?
So I've given myself an out by virtue of having the live video podcast, which a lot of the Instagrammers aren't listening to. And by virtue of doing the live video, as long as I've done it, people know I do live video first. That was really what I got into when I got into broadcasting, was the live video. And I want to treat, even whether I build a digital product, a YouTube, I might be a little more particular with editing stuff, but I believe in doing one take. And so when I podcast, if I start podcasting late in the afternoon, every once in a while I have trouble with yawning. Now, once or twice when I've started yawning a little bit, I've turned it off and said, you know what, I'll do this tomorrow. It's not working. But there's been other times where, maybe I'm pushing 30 episodes recorded in one day, and I really want to get that number. In the last 3 episodes, I'm getting worn out and I start yawning. I'll try to suppress it. I might, I don't like into the
you push through.
But I push through and I tell people, look, if I were on a live video, if you were with me in a bar and I was talking to you about what it is I'm talking to you about today, the yawn would be there, and it's an imperfection. But look, in live video, you have to go with imperfections, and you may as well be happy and content. If the doorbell rings, if I forget to turn my phone, if my wife or child opens the door and says something to me, it's all stuff I don't want to have happen, but I'm not going to freak out about it. I'm going to play it out.
Yeah.
And if it's so bad that I can't play it out, then I will re-record it. But more often than not, I don't. And I think people, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I think I've had 2 or 3 yawning episodes in the last year. And I get tons of messages saying, I yawned all the way home. Thanks, my friend. I was driving home and it really made me tired. And, and people get, I mean, nobody's upset. They're just, it made a connection with people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if it's a bizarre connection, it sometimes that kind of stuff works.
Yeah, or sometimes our eccentricities or moments like that are what connect with people on a humorous side. So it's all cool. I want to share a couple of comments here.
Yep.
So Simply Beth said, someday Todd's kids can have their own podcast to talk about the dysfunction under his roof.
Sooner than later. I wish my kids were podcasting now.
Well, I think you said you have a spare set of gear already for your daughter to fire up, right?
I do have a spare set of gear. She's just been swamped with school, so we'll see how that goes.
Her time will come. And then on the subject of pivoting, which we talked about, Simply Beth also said that if you're offering, the platform is that if you are offering quality content, the audiences will appreciate it and they'll show up for it. So that's the main thing. So if an artist pivots or evolves and tries to explore areas that may be new for them and uncomfortable and exploratory, you never know. The audience may go, holy cow, I'm so glad we're into Todd's stuff because he's now sharing another whole dimension. And I think this is where it gets into, it's more about they're there showing up for Todd, right?
Oh, there's a lot of that. Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of people that I've become good friends with that listen, and people who I've never met in person who listen and consume the content, whether it's audio, podcasts or video or Instagram content. But I'm kind of in the same way with you with the pivoting thing. It's kind of risky because they say that they say the riches are in the niches and you really need to niche down and focus on the one thing. But it's tough when you're doing, like you said, you're doing all this stuff, but you've decided that the way you look at it is you're doing video. And I think that's brilliant. So I do all this stuff too. I do Instagram. I do a lot of Instagram video. I do Instagram. I'm creating videos now for the static feed. The little 1-minute videos. I do podcasting. I do live video. I'm starting to get into YouTube. So I've kind of I'm in a way a jack of all trades. And so I'm kind of looking at it like, it's not that I'm teaching you podcasting versus Instagram. It's that I'm teaching you how to broadcast as a do-it-yourself solo entrepreneur, somebody without a team. And that's who my client is somebody who doesn't have a team that knows that they need to be on Instagram. They know they need to do some live video. They know they need to be on YouTube. They know they need to podcast. How do you manage all this stuff? How do you do it? Well, that's what I do. And that's what I can teach you how to do, whether it's setting up the tech or, I've pivoted. I've had people tell me, Todd, you're doing way too much stuff. And people don't know whether to come at you for podcasting or Instagram. And there's a lot of people out there who are in the digital space who are working for themselves without a team, who are trying to manage all this stuff. It's pretty much not manageable.
Well, I produce comparatively a fraction of the content. I mean, fine, I may put out a 20-minute video and all that work that goes behind it, but if I had the confidence and wherewithal to micro or bite-size, find a way to bite-size what I like to share, I could produce a lot more content. And believe me, I want to get there. I want to have some new experiences to try that. And I'm going to, and thankfully with a friend like you, I'll get a little push. And I want to mention that in our chat there's Pam Duthie who has joined us, as well as Dan Norton, and they're great examples, both of them, of putting it out there and putting out new experiences. Pam's done a lot of pivoting and experimenting, and I love watching what she does, and so like we all can learn from each other and encourage each other to take those steps, those risks, and say, hey, we're here to support you. And she's been a great support when I go through my little cycles of up and downs here. I get a cheer up from Pam, but it's great to see other creators doing that experiment work. And then take someone like Dan, who blew the lid off of what was going on at VidSummit last week in his role as supporting Daryl in that in real life, the IRL, chat, which he called the 24/5. I was so intrigued by that, especially because when it started, I go, oh my God, I'm sitting around the table with Daryl Eves, Evan Carmichael, the Niman brothers, Justin Brown, David Foster Luria, and it's like, I feel like, I'm at the table, and it was fun. There was a lot of joking going on and interesting stuff, and they played a lot with the audience. So these experiments were like, I think, just telling in so many ways about experience for people. And Dan, I watched Dan, he was, he basically became like the right-hand person, more or less, running solo that stream for a significant amount of time over the 2 days of the conference. I mean, the poor guy didn't even get to see much of the conference or any, but you should have seen where he was when he started and what the flower was of Dan at the end, and what he managed to experience in those 2 days and show us him going right out of the box for him was just, to me, very inspirational for creators. Like, you were there experiencing and watching. Like, what did you see?
I saw Dan doing what he was doing. I still don't understand how Dan was able to go to the bathroom ever. I drink a lot of water at conferences to try to stay hydrated, but that also means a lot of bathroom breaks. And I can't imagine doing his job with my metabolism and how much water I drink. I don't know how I would handle the camera. It's like every other 10 minutes I'm putting the camera away. Yeah. But Dan did a fantastic job. I did want to address something that Pam said that I think is extremely key here, folks. And I think that, Gord, I know you've seen this comment already. You kind of mentioned it. But what she says is upping the quantity really means you can figure out how much editing is good enough. And I mean, that right there so far in this list of things that I've seen talked about is like the biggest takeaway from the comment section, because we all want it to be great. We all want it to be as good as it can be. We all get that. Okay. I mean, maybe there's some out there that don't care as much, but we all want it to be great. But on the other hand, you have to get content out there. I mean, when you create one single piece of content, it's kind of like you're out on a dinghy in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, kind of waving your hand and screaming and hoping that somebody on shore notices. And so in order to get noticed, you've got to create tons of these little pieces of content that you're kind of waving and getting out there and hoping somebody at shore notices it, the right people too notice it. And you have to be able to let go of that perfectionism. And, that's why I think whatever platform you're using, if you can really tailor it down to bite-sized content and do it as much daily as you can, you're going to be in a much better spot. Even if it's just little people, because most people, let's say you do an hour show talking about podcasting, you're not going to talk about one single topic through the whole show. You're going to cover several different things. Why not chop that into pieces? And then every day there's a piece where one day you're talking about a microphone, one day you're talking about an experience you had, and just chop it down and spread it out.
I'll tell you, can I share with you?
Absolutely.
Because I suffer from that perfectionism element. And when I take a topic and I go, okay, I'm going to do animated bullets, which was my last 2 videos. I actually created a 2-part piece, total 35 minutes. And I said, because I need to show them 3 examples. I need to throw in my special animated spin graphics. I need to show them all the tricks and nuances, every single one of them, so that I thoroughly cover. And then after, when I get done, I go, probably could have been 4 videos or more. And the reality is, those that watch through go, oh, this was incredible. But I'm missing out on all those people that go, 10 minutes? I'm not going to invest in that. They'll look for a couple of minutes and then they'll bail because they don't want to spend the time right now. Or when they have a need, they'll dive in. So I am missing out by not creating more of a diverse time range set of content and mixing it up more to find how to serve in the snackable fashion. So you're totally right. And that comment about feeling like in the boat, and I feel like, my next masterpiece is due a week from now. I need to kind of like outdo or something on par with that. So this is where I talk about pivoting
Well,
and being able to accept that I should really be letting my audience decide, but getting that feedback is not always the easiest thing.
That's a different thing.
YouTube.
That brings up a different topic too, because the way you worded that, it kind of sounds like every video you have to best the last one, and that's simply not true. I'm just as a friend, you can plateau for a while. Like you've learned some tricks, and you plateau for a while. Get some other tricks in your bag, and then release those slowly. And just you don't have to grow with every piece of content. If you're trying to do that daily, that certainly would be a nightmare situation. But even like weekly or bi-weekly, you don't have to beat yourself and look at your last piece of content and think, man, the next one's got to be a lot better, because at some point you're going to run out of tricks in your bag. It just has to be great. It needs to beat your competitors and be informative and fun and clever, like all your videos tend to be anyway.
Yeah. That's so true. And I'd like to welcome Crypto Cruising here, who joined us. And by the way, he was, I think, a mod that was very active on Dan's stream and did an amazing job.
Awesome.
And there was a lot of teamwork involved there. And by the way, Dan shared with us that he had one bathroom break in that 9-hour day. So Dan, maybe he's an Olympian for bladder holding or something.
Yeah, I wouldn't have made it. I would have been absolutely miserable. I think it would be fun to walk around with the bag and get people, but I'd have to do it in a shift. So like if Dan would have said, here, do this for an hour, then I'd do it for an hour, but that'd probably be the extent of it. Dan called me a podcast machine. Dan was a VidSummit IRL machine is what he was.
Yeah, Dan, I was just totally amazed how I saw his energy evolve and his interest and his curiosity with the people, and how he, just like I saw him grow so much. And when I say that, I don't mean to say like he was not something amazing to start with, but this guy took it on full bore, right with the spotlight on him, with, most of the time 50, 60, 70 people watching, and this guy's got to carry the show for hours.
Right.
But it must have been a very cool experience. And I'm hoping to interview Dan sometime this week. We've talked about that and dive deeper into dealing with some of those moments of his experiences with people. And it's like, oh, you don't know this person. So now how do you get the convo going and share what the audience has to say, and then balance that out. And, he just did a stellar job. And I'm sure this has just lit him on fire inside for possibility for what he can now do. And I remember him telling us all before he went, he goes, I got to get out there. I'm going to volunteer because this is going to be an incredible opportunity to step up and experience being around all of these people. And I just think he showed us how incredible the whole IRL experience can be. And this brings us to another question that I'd like to ask you, and that's about quality. So they had lots of glitching with the image having glitching. I mean, they had great technology provided by LiveView, and Dan had a signal that was, pretty good most of the time. Like, where does it become the state that it's not so much that the tech is perfect as long as it's at a certain level? We talk about the concept, Todd, of pro level and having all the gear and doing the top-notch polished thing in the podcast. But now when you're doing IRL or live streaming, the audience is a lot more forgiving. They're there for the persona, for the information. What are your thoughts about that quality, diversity, and the need?
Well, most importantly is the audio. The audio can't fail for very long, or you're going to lose people. The video can fail for longer, but if it's too bad for too long, you'll lose people there too. Fortunately, with the technology today, you get past these speed bumps. And plus, I mean, Dan was doing and VidSummit, they were doing this 24-hour or the all day long, whatever it was called. And there's going to be ups and downs, and there's going to be ups and downs in the crowd. I mean, there's moments where there's only 3 or 4 people watching, and there's other moments where there's 25 people watching. So, you just hope that when there's 25 people watching, the tech is cooperating with you. But with live video, the audience has 2 choices: be patient or leave. Fortunately, as technology gets better and better, they're able to be patient because these little intermittent problems are intermittent. They're small and they come and go.
Do you ever feel you're letting them down, like with certain things happening, that it's affected you? Like I've already shared with you that in a few of my live streams to get going, I had like little anxiety meltdowns because I'm wasting 10 minutes and I couldn't solve a tech problem,
anymore.
right?
I mean, if I was having, if Gary Vaynerchuk, like I don't want to make it sound like somehow if somebody really important's on my show, it's going to matter more to me than if somebody not as important is on the show, because I think everybody's equally important, but there are realities. And so like, I mean, if you're going to have a Gary Vaynerchuk on your show, I'd be sweating bullets that the tech would be, you know, because Gary's not going to give me another chance. Gary's going to expect things to be perfect. He's a very busy, and he's going to give me the one chance, and he might be a little forgiving if it's truly a tech issue and I've handled it properly. But you know, the odds that I'm going to get another go round with Gary on the next day, if things are breaking down and I need 24 hours to figure it out, the odds that I'm going to get him the next day are slim. Right. Now, like 99% of all the other people I know, you, Ross Brand, Nez, any of the people in our audience, if I was going to do an interview with and we were having a tech issue, the odds that I could get you to come back the next day to on a reschedule because things are kind of screwing up are a lot higher. So, you know, how I get concerned about it has to do with that sort of a thing if I'm bringing a guest on. But more often than not, I mean, people know me. People that are going to watch my content know who I am already. They know that I'm an extreme perfectionist when it comes to the tech and the software involved, but they know that I'm not such a perfectionist that I won't allow the show to go on. But if there's a glitch and I'm like, sorry, folks, it's not working, or if they can't hear me, if I have to type it, or if I have to say, you know, kind of make a symbol like, or you know, go like that to let them know that we're logging off. You know, stuff happens. Stuff happens, and people that know me are forgiving of that. And I have to say that more often than not, that maybe new people who are discovering me when I'm doing a show, if there's a glitch that I can't let the show go on, those aren't usually people who are there right when the show starts. Those are usually people that show up later because the algorithm has placed it in front of them somehow. So yeah, more often than not, I mean, there's not a lot of viewers at the beginning, and that's where you find your glitches. If the show can't go on, you're going to find it in the first couple minutes, and it's, oh, well, you know, sorry, folks, we'll try again tomorrow. Yeah. I want to mention we got a few more people that have joined us, including Dee Niman. Welcome, Dee. Nice to see you here. I guess you've caught up on some sleep by now, which is nice to see that you're here. And Crypto Cruising made a comment that I wanted to share with everyone. He said, for the people that stayed in the stream, there was a lot. The knowledge they gained was as good as the speakers in the rooms, if not better. And that was the thing. I got so gripped by watching the IRL, I felt like I was part of those hallway conversations, because Dan, in his role, what he was doing was in essence playing that curiosity cat for all of us sitting here. And then he was looking for questions, and it was like, wow, you just brought the audience in to have a gateway to all the people there at the conference, and all of those speakers and interesting creators. And it really opened my eyes up to that, how these forums, these conference forums with an IRL experience can really be magical in terms of a virtual experience for people to learn and grow just by being part of that. And they did that that was done for free too, you know, which I found kind of interesting in itself. Yep, absolutely. Well, promoting the show, right? There's going to be a lot of people that saw that live video who might have passed this year who are going to be there next year. So, you know, yeah, and in fact, that'll also, inspire others to experience. And there's more people here joining. Wow, we're getting busy here. Welcome to Scott's Thoughts channel, and Eileen Smith. Welcome, Eileen. Nice to see you here. And it's great. And I want to mention also Les El Blatino is in here. And when I was talking earlier, I just want to do a quick sidebar about creativity and getting inspiration as a creator and trying to mix it up and do new things. Well, when I was in Roberto's group, I got to see this gentleman, Les, who's a filmmaker, do these incredible things with green screen and miniature models. I was just like blown away. Like I looked at a scene where he's like acting with like 8 characters in there, and it's all him, and it's a scene and the actors are in essence acting with each other in a coordinated scene. And I go, oh my God, like how do you pull this off? So to make a long story short, we've become friends and decided on a few collaboration projects, one of which is a Halloween film.
which we are producing now, that's coming out next Thursday, October 25th. And a number of the creators in the audience right now are participating. And it's really exciting because we're going to share some of those lessons about how, you know, I would always think like, well, you know, I don't have the skills of the pure filmmaker. And then the filmmaker starts to see, oh, look at how the YouTuber works, and how can we work together? And we sort of found ways to cross the boundaries and the divide that, you know, it's very inspirational on both sides. And I'm really looking forward to share that. And I just wanted to mention that I never knew I would have so much fun in an experience like this. And that's why pivoting and trying new experiments and to bring more things to your audience that you're experiencing in your journey yourself, they may just latch on to and say, wow, that was cool. Look, Todd just, you know, strapped himself up with his Sony and went out for a walk and chose to take an experience here and shared some interesting metaphors as he was walking around and something. And it's like, wow, cool. I didn't see that dimension to Todd before, right?
Right. Hey, there's Andrew Can too. It was good to see him at the show. Didn't get to spend a lot of time with Andrew this time around. I missed seeing him, but good to see you. And I'm sure I'll see you at the next show.
Yeah, I miss you, Andrew. And I've been told I have to wait for a conference in order to interview Andrew. So I have to get out there, and I'm working on that, buddy. Just wanted to share that story there, Todd. But yeah, I mean, like, so there were so many interesting experiences that went on there. What about tech? There was a lot, you know, like there's TubeBuddy, vidIQ, and there's other apps and software and products. Like, can you share with us a little bit what you experienced in sort of the, I'll call it the exhibit experience from the vendors, and what you saw that shows, you know, what's evolving as compared to say last year?
Well, I am a TubeBuddy client, so I have been for quite some time with a Legendary account. I know they gave they had so I think they had a giveaway. I have to look into that, but I am a TubeBuddy client. I have gotten to know the guys at the vidIQ booth as well, and you know, their platform offers a lot of similar things, but it also offers some different things. So I may be a dual YouTube social media manager type guy using TubeBuddy and vidIQ for various things. Because I like them both. And then the other thing, as far as vendors, I only got to know 3 vendors. I already know the guys at TubeBuddy, and I've been a customer of theirs for a long time. So I didn't end up spending a lot of time there. I spent a lot of time with LaRon, but I have, over the last 2 shows I've been at, LaRon and I have hung out an awful lot. But I hung out with Addie over at Simplecast, and I'm a Libsyn customer, and she's promoting Simplecast, which is a competitor of Libsyn's. And I've got 2 daily podcasts on Libsyn that I have no intent in moving. I'm very happy with Libsyn, but I also like Addie, and Simplecast looks very interesting. And there's some things that they're going to be doing that I'm very, very interested in. So if I do decide to do a 3rd podcast, I'll probably put that on Simplecast just to give it a shot and see what they're up to. But those are the only 3 vendors that, I mean, I have to say I wasn't at the TubeBuddy booth. But because I already know a lot about that, I stopped by and said hello and everything, but I was over at vidIQ and I was over at Simplecast quite a bit, talking to people over there. And then as far as tech goes in the hall, there's always tech. I took my camera. I'm going to be known as that guy that walks around with a camera that never uses it, because I didn't pull it out once. Because I was just absorbing things. I took it because I was going to do some collaborations, and I had some things in mind, but when I got there, 1, I was losing my voice and I was fighting that. And 2, I was just taking it in, and
you were immersed,
really,
right?
Yeah. I was focusing on, nice conversations with people, other creators, people I know, getting to know people, than I was, hey, let's do a collab so we can get the social proof necessary. This
is a very interesting point, because before I went to VidSummit last year, I had in my mind, okay, I'm going to bring a camera. I'm going to have opportunity to do a whole bunch of collabs, try and focus there. And then I watched Owen Video work the room like magic with collaborations. And he was so focused, and he got, I'm sure, so much done. He actually asked me, and I participated and was in a collab on one of those last year. And I go, wow, you like really got to be focused, and I can see how that could potentially detract from your ability to get the kind of value you describe in some of the relationships, because you can't really spend much time if you're busy with your microphone and your camera and your lights buzzing around. Now, I guess it all depends too on what you're trying to get out of the experience. But Owen is at so many of these things, and he MCs a lot in a lot of the events. So to him, you know, it's just almost like a continuous flow. Monthly, he has exposure to events to meet all of these amazing people that he's got to know so well, right? But for people like me and maybe you, when I got there, I realized, oh my God, for me, it's like I never met Todd. Oh, I watched Todd, but I want to meet him and hang out a bit with him. Oh, look, Professor Nez is here. I never saw him in real life, and boy, he's twice as large in real life in the animation and energy than I thought. So it was great to you know, like you said, build the relationship experience. And I said, you know what? There's going to be lots of people sharing video stuff and that, but I saw this year a ton of lights, recordings. The stuff was still going on big time, and the Nimmons, D and Nick did a lot of stuff. Brian G, Andrew, you know.
Well, you know, I feel like you have to make some decisions when you're there. You know, if you're going to be a content creating machine, great. I mean, and I can do that, but then other things are going to slide. Like, am I going to get to sit down and talk for an hour with a couple guys and get to know them really well? Everybody that you encounter there, it also has a time crunch, not just you. And so it's like, you know, I had an opportunity to hang out with Michael Stelzner on a couple of occasions there. And I found much more value in hanging out with Michael Stelzner by talking about the event, what we were seeing, what the experience was like, than it was, hey, Michael, can we do a collab real quick while I film this with my selfie camera? You know, I just don't want to go about it that way. I do need to do more collabing. I mean, you know, I didn't get into any of Nick's stuff. I would have loved to have hung out with the Nim Naughty guys more and done some collabs over there. But, you know, it's tricky. You know, there's certain people on the collab content creation track. There's certain people on they want to take it easy track. There's certain people that really want to just, you know, and then there's people that try to mix it up pretty good. It's tough to mix it up though. I mean, it is tough to mix up the different ways of doing it.
I would think it's so hard to do the mix and match, because to really do the collab thing, you need to be focused. I mean,
you do.
And not let all the buzz that's going on. And that's the thing with me, is when I would like walk around and see all of these people, and that's what the IRL experience brought forward again. I'd go like, oh my God, this year would have been like twice as hard to do that, because I can imagine everywhere you turned, you know, a distance in line of sight, there was a microphone and a camera going with lights, I guarantee you. So, you know, it was amazing. And I also really enjoyed, because I'm more into the creative part as a creative YouTuber, content creator, and, you know, a lot of the people are there, but I'm more how-to and video. To see all the different kinds of people there with channels that are tied to entertainment, or even there was people there that had disabilities doing incredible things to share, and that really opened my eyes up to see a lot more about you know, just the diversity of people creating content out there. And that really rang true to me. And I started watching a lot of these people that were there, and that Dan interviewed, and I go, wow, there are so many incredible content creators, editors, and all of this out there. It kind of makes you feel like, oh, you know, you're a little speck in the ocean, but it's who people resonate with in the end. And if you have a message, you got to go for it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, look at that. Wow. Eileen was generous to you today.
Thank you, Eileen. That's very kind. I appreciate that. And Eileen, you know, bless her soul, she was so kind. She was the one that witnessed my biggest meltdown, longest for history, but she goes on record as being a savior and a super kind soul. I had like I think it was near half an hour to 40 minutes. And then she rescued me by bringing us into Google Hangouts, because I couldn't get over some audio issues. And by the way, Eileen, I had them today with Todd, and I was able to overcome them myself. So see, I'm learning, and she's
fantastic, and she has one of the best voices that you could listen to.
Yeah.
You know,
and she has great diversity of content.
And she does. I used to listen to her on Anchor. she had a really good, I don't know if she still does Anchor, but I was considering Anchor, and I was listening to her a lot on Anchor because between her and Reezy Resells, I didn't know anybody else who was doing it better.
Yeah. I mean, the engagement she has on Anchor really impressed me, and the fan base that she developed. And, you know, she just has that very, you know, warm energy about her that's very inviting for people to want to hang out. And, you know, I appreciate you, Eileen, for that, which you share with us. And by example, show us all about the possibility. And I'm amazed how nothing really phases her. Like my little meltdown had no impact on her. And she was just so cool through the whole thing.
Well,
and,
you didn't phase me either. I just kind of sat back and was thinking to myself, you know, stuff happens. I wasn't thinking the word stuff, but, you know, he'll figure it out here in a minute and we'll be live and all will be good. So I knew it would be fine.
So Todd, that was the first time it got resolved in a minute. Okay, so
right.
I'm grateful that happened too. So that's a step forward in the confidence and problem solving ability of going live. So that was really fun. So I just want to mention to everybody, please feel free to throw any questions in there. And if someone who was at you know, VidSummit has something to share, you know, like D, you know, tell us what, I know D's there still, if he's there. What was your favorite experience or lecture that you experienced? I mean, I know you were out there networking, and I so love to see D and Nick and the Brown brothers and all kinds of people there. But if anyone, and Andrew, share something with us that stuck out for you in your experience at VidSummit this year. And I loved the two buddy panel stuff that they do when, you know, Owen sits down with Roberto, Brian G, Nick, and D, and like I just so loved that engagement, because I'm a YouTube junkie too. So you mean in terms of the how to and the knowledge and how to do your best. So when they get together, you know, it's a lot of fun for me. So let's see here.
You know, Andrew just asked an interesting question. What would you want from a sponsor at VidSummit? We can give you free stuff, but what more can we do for you? I'll tell you, Andrew, you know, one thing that you've always done is, you know, you always say hi, you always chit chat, you always get to know people. And same thing, you know, like I said, with Simplecast and vidIQ, they all do the same thing. Addie for Simplecast, I met her at Social Media Marketing World. I was introduced to her at a party at a beer garden or something. And, you know, naturally, and we live local. She's here in Anaheim Hills and I'm in Irvine, but, she, you know, she's big into podcasting. She's a big supporter of those in the podcast community. And because of that, as much as I've been loyal to Libsyn, you know, I'm going to throw some business her way if I do a third podcast. I told her if I do a third one, we'll try it. And then, you know, the same thing with the vidIQ guys. I mean, I've really gotten to know Jeremy Vest and Laurent quite well. In fact, I feel like I've gotten to know Laurent as good as anybody I've ever met at a conference. I mean, I really love hanging out with the guy, and he's a fountain of awesome information. And, you know, that's why I'm probably going to be doing both TubeBuddy and vidIQ at the same time, because it's the people. I get to know the people and I get to have the relationships. And, you know, it can be a little expensive if I'm on multiple things, but, you know, if particularly when the different things offer some different features and I can win by being part of all of it, then I don't have a problem doing that. I mean, it's,
I really concur with that, Todd, because what I'm finding is, as we talked about, time is the rarest commodity that we have. In order to grow and produce more content and stay present, we need to find ways, whether it's through assistant help or tools that bring us greater efficiencies. And I find tools like, whether it's TubeBuddy, vidIQ, or Morning Fame, they all have their strengths and differences, and the complement. I mean, I'd love to have them all, but what I want to say is they help me a lot in shortcutting things like my SEO and how to compete in what I deliver. So I think those kind of tools are very important for our tool set to compete on the YouTube platform, as an example. But I want to say something that was very special to me, and I've done a few lives with Andrew, and one of them, I asked him if we could take some of my old videos and do a deep dive analysis on how to update some of my keyword tags. And we found some amazing examples and did like this 3-hour thing after I had a half an hour tech meltdown that day. Right. And it was incredible. And I want to say he does so much for everyone when he tries to help in support of their technology, and I commend him for that. And always when he's got the panels going, he's like so concerned about covering what he's out there. He has a purpose and a focus. And I'm just saying, you know, Andrew, kudos to you for what you share with us and how you go about it.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. The TubeBuddy people are at, I mean, and they're at every convention, you know, that it seems like I'm at, which is a good thing because, you know, they're representing and I get to see them once again, and you know they do the panels and stuff. So it's great marketing and it's great community building, and you know all of it's good. I honestly, I don't. To Andrew's question, I don't care as much about the swag myself. I mean, occasionally, you know, it's fun. I think I got a TubeBuddy beanie at VidCon, and that's pretty cool. But I don't need to fill a bag full of goodies. I'd much rather just shake a hand and, you know, exchange a few comments and have a laugh or two and feel like I'm getting to know the people behind the brand rather than the toys and stuff. But I get you've got to do the toys. I mean, it's, you know, the buttons and the hats and the t-shirts and stuff. I mean, that goes miles with some people. And yeah, it's charming and all that. But to me, it's the relationship building. That's the most important thing to me.
And I think we should take notice of the fact that for many people, they may be lucky to get out and be able to afford going to one conference every couple of years or whatever period of time. So that swag thing is a big fun haul, I'll call it, for those that go. I remember how back in my tech days, I used to like live for that stuff because it was like, here I'm going on the company's dime and I'm just going to load up and bring back stuff to my team. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. So
right. Well, you know, another point to Andrew's question about what more can we do for you kind of a thing. Well, Gary Vaynerchuk kind of set the standard with the swag bag, with everybody getting a pair of the Clouds and Dirt tennis shoes. So I expect that vendors are going to start showing up with shoes and total wardrobe. So I can like,
well, TubeBuddy unleashed their fancy tops that they unveiled, that Andrew unveiled in the panel he had in the hallway there with the guys. So maybe you can start to encourage us to put TubeBuddy merch out there.
Yeah, swag that you can use.
Yeah,
that's another thing too. Swag that you can use. Swag that is actually gonna, you know, somebody's gonna actually use that. Is always.
I love that term, Todd. Swag that you can use.
Yeah, well, the top shelf VA. That's her.
That's Naomi. She's awesome.
Yep.
Hey Naomi, nice to see you here. We've had a great conversation going. Lots of great people joining us here today. And yeah, Andrew's on it. He said, stay tuned. So there's always something interesting coming. I think they you know, try to keep doing something interesting each time out. So that's very cool.
Well, Pam says that she's sold for snacks. The problem with snacks is that you just have people that they're going to keep coming back to your table to fill up all day. So
I become a sugarholic at these events where I normally wouldn't consume that degree of sugar. So when you have a sweet table, it's like I remember people walking through the corridor going, oh, chocolate chip cookies. And they were just like, you know, that's it, they're done. And I'd eat a handful of them and then I'd be asleep in an hour or want to sleep in an hour. So that's one of the kind of funny things that happens. Let's see a little more there.
What now?
Yeah, so there, Crypto Cruising put it out there to Andrew. Where can you buy TubeBuddy t-shirts? It's a good question.
Oh, I'm sure that you can ask for one and it'll show up.
Yeah.
Sorry if that's not the answer. I didn't mean to answer that for you.
Well, speaking of t-shirts, when Dan Norton was in the middle of his IRL, there were some questions like, for people going like, so where's Daryl? And I said, Dan, you need to get the t-shirt like D. Niman first put on, except yours says, I'm not Daryl Eves, instead of I'm not Nick Niman. So he can wear that and own that forever, and people will connect with that and resonate with that quite well. Yep. I just thought that was a funny sidebar there for a second. So So Todd, you've gone to things like social media marketing world, right? So can
Yes.
you position these like, I mean that on the scale, that's like a crazy size conference. Like is your modus operandi the same kind of thing when you go to a social media marketing world versus a VidSummit? Like, how do you differentiate the experiences, and why should someone go to both kinds of events?
Well, here's the thing. Social media marketing world is a different kind of conference than most of these conferences. There's only two events that I would feel like I could say that I won't miss, even though I missed one of them this year. I had to take a break this year, and I had a wedding to go to that fell in the middle of it. But the two events are World Domination Summit in Portland, Oregon, and Social Media Marketing World. They're two totally different kinds of events. I do feel like VidSummit's one you shouldn't miss. VidCon's one. The first year I went to VidCon, I didn't think that highly of it. The second year I went, I was blown away. So I think they did some nice things the second year. Or maybe it's also, like I said about VidSummit, I knew more people, and therefore it was a more fun show and more valuable show to me because I knew a lot more people, and that could be it. But VidCon, VidSummit are great. Podcast Movement's great. I went to Traffic and Conversion. I was terribly surprised and delighted about how great that show was. I expected it to be, it's a real heavy emphasis on marketing, and there are people out there that say they kind of push the boundaries, and there can be marketing sleaze sometimes, and I didn't find that at all to be the truth with Traffic and Conversion. I thought Traffic and Conversion was an extremely valuable show. I had a great time, but I tend to attack all the shows the same. I mean, I don't know. I would love to collaborate more with people. I think at VidSummit, I miss huge opportunities by not getting out in the hall more and trying to get in with Nick and Dee and the guys. But on the other hand, I do the same thing at Social Media Marketing World. I don't know that I collaborated with anybody at Social Media Marketing World. I really just focus on getting to know people, and you get limited because people that are focused on collaborating are moving around so fast that if you're not participating in that, then you don't even really get to see them all that much. And that kind of happens at Social Media Marketing World. I barely saw Dee and Nick and Owen, because they were very, very busy. And, one thing, you're not going to get to know Owen at a conference unless you're tethered to him. And there's a real short.
And I was going to say, the Owens, the Nicks, the Sean Cannells, like some of the people that I can relate to more so in the YouTube space. I mean, they got to have fast. All kinds of stuff planned for when they hit the ground there. And, I was lucky. I was blessed last year at VidSummit. Nick had not yet lectured. And I remember at the time, literally a year ago, Nick had 60 some odd thousand subs. Now he's like 260, 270 something. I mean, it's just staggering growth in that period of time. And look at how his world has evolved and changed. And at the end of VidSummit, I didn't know I added a couple extra days to my trip because I'd never been out to LA. And I ended up spending a chunk of time with Nick over the few days, getting to know him and having a lot of fun. And
that's
I feel very blessed. And you never know what you're going to experience or what's going to happen. And so, I was grateful for that. But I saw this year, it looked insane for those guys. I mean, the demands. And imagine, though, if you're Dee and Nick, you're coming all the way from Chiang Mai, Thailand. Yeah. So you go all out for the time that you're here. Because you got, not saying that, that you can just rest when you get back, but it's not like you're more local and you have access to so many great events, right? With little cost, right?
Right. And if I want to collab with people, I'd much rather do it, quite honestly, like we're doing right now. Like I could probably reach out to Dee or Nick. I mixed up, maybe we should call them that, right? They're a duo. So we just call them
Nee and Nick.
Yeah. Nee. Nee means both of them.
Okay.
But yeah, if I want to collaborate with Owen, I mean, I've spent a lot of good time with Owen behind the scenes away from the show.
Yeah.
So I don't really need to see Owen at the show, or I don't really need to see, there's plenty of people that I don't need to see at the show because I see them a lot behind the scenes on, what we do on Zoom or text messaging or that sort of a thing. But, I get exhausted at these shows. I just like to take it easy and take it all in, get to know the people who are kind of working at my speed. and that works great for me. Everybody has their own thing, but this show, I mean, look, folks, VidSummit just gets better and better every year, and it's becoming one of those you can't miss at shows. Now, I know already for some of the people that are at VidSummit, they feel that way, and for the most part, I do too. But my two you can't miss are our World Domination Summit and Social Media Marketing. Social Media Marketing World was, I mean, my mind was blown at the quality of the whole thing and the size of the whole thing.
Yeah, to me, it looks like it's the World's Fair of conferences.
Yeah, so Andrew calls them Dick and Knee sometimes. Yeah, knee means both. Maybe we can somehow, get them in a presser or something and just kind of make them one. I don't know, but the importance of going to these shows is networking. If you're going thinking you're going to learn a ton in the conference rooms, you stand a chance at being disappointed no matter what the show is, depending on your knowledge going into the thing. Like if I went to a live video conference, I'm not going to learn a lot in the shows. It's all the value for me is going to be out in the hallway. Inside the show is usually the shows are geared towards people who are starting out. It's less advanced stuff, because if it's too advanced, then, it's not reaching the masses. The masses are looking for more of the basic stuff. And sometimes you do find some higher level conferences or sessions within a conference. But most of the time I found that the conferences tend to be fairly basic if you're already well-spoken in a particular category. So you might pull out a few nuggets here or there, but the value really is the fact that you've come to this place, Los Angeles, California, for VidSummit, and you're in this hotel and you're with guys from Thailand, you're with people from London, you're with people from Canada, you're with people from all over the country, that have come here, that they're all congregated in this one place, and you have this opportunity to shake hands. And, if you want a selfie, if that's your thing, you can do it. Mm-hmm. You go to these conferences to watch other people speak and figure out, why it's their passion. Peter McKinnon was outstanding. Gary Vaynerchuk, outstanding. Although I think Gary you hear all the same stuff on his Instagram, but to see him in person is unique, right? It's an outstanding experience. But the values in the networking out in the hall. If you're not doing that and spending quality time with people out in the hall, then you're truly missing out on what this thing is all about. Yeah.
And again, the in real life gave us some exposure to that because of the way that people walked up and participated, and knowing that it was there, and the way Dan drew people in. And I find it also interesting. Think about the viewer, like Scott's Thoughts channel mentioned that, he got a lot of exposure for his own channel just by participating in chat, which is pretty amazing when you think about it, that now you're networking through the chat in a live event. It's kind of interesting. And that brings me to, one other question is, how do you feel about, how are things evolving for the viewer in terms of how demanding are we becoming in terms of how we want to consume video, audio, short, long? Like, have you over the last year developed more of an opinion of how do we satisfy the viewer?
Yeah. And I've kind of settled on, like we talked about earlier, on the bite-sized content, not asking too much of the viewer's time and trying to get in front of the viewer more often than not. Look, there's going to be people that find my Todd.LIVE grammar school podcast or the Entrepreneur Live video podcast, and maybe they don't like the format. Maybe they don't like my Southern accent. Maybe they think I'm too opinionated, whatever. There's other content for them, but my content's going to, and surprisingly, get this, folks, it's totally blows me away, but the bulk of the people who pay me for coaching, who buy my products, who reach out to me on a daily basis or a regular basis to talk to me, are Gen X women who are very professional and talented in what they're doing. When you sit down and you try to think up what your business is going to be, if you talk to a coach, they're going to tell you, you need to figure out who your avatar is. Right. Well, a lot of the time, my avatar would be a Gen X dude about my age, 45, 46, 47, who, professional, college educated, whatever. And it pretty much is that, except it's not a man, it's a woman. And for whatever reason, my podcast, my content, my shtick, my style, seems to work with that crowd. But I focus on bite size. I try to make it fun. I try to make it engaging. I don't take myself too seriously. I don't self-promote nonstop and act like I'm the greatest thing that ever hit podcasting, because I'm not anywhere near it. But I just have fun, and I try to make it, this is what it is, folks. This is what I can give you on a daily basis. And this is all of me as best as I can do on a daily basis. And, I could maybe up it if I did it once a week or whatever, but I want to be daily. I want you thinking about me daily. I want to think about you daily. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of where I've taken it. I think that the audience has a lot of choices. They have a lot of good choices. There are, somebody says I don't sound Southern. My friend, You don't even know. I grew up all over the South. Anyway, I totally got distracted by that because I'm kind of surprised. Although some people think that I'm from Texas, which is usually people from out here in California think I'm Texas. But, you don't want to be too demanding of their time. You don't want to waste their time, but you want to be there for them. And I think it's important to be there daily. I mean, if you're not there daily, somebody else is. I mean, Gary Vaynerchuk, I hate to keep pointing to him or even bringing him up because I know he's not everybody's cup of tea, but he's on Instagram nonstop, Facebook. He does have a team, but he's everywhere nonstop. There's something to be said about picking your platforms and being there as often as you can be. I know a lot of YouTubers that, they want to be a daily video channel and they're trying to figure out how to do that. I don't know I think Roberto was trying to do that at one point the last year or two. I remember him saying something about that. I don't know if he's ever done it that way or not, but I've heard prominent YouTubers say, I want to work up to a video a day. Well, they know that if they put out content on a daily basis, I mean, there could be some negatives, but there can also be a lot of positives, particularly when you're the one doing it. The kind of kudos I get for running 2 daily podcasts. I mean, people just are dazzled by it, whether they've heard the show or not. They're just like, wow, 2 podcasts. Some people are probably mortified by it.
Yeah, well, I mean, someone like me who does deep dive tutorials that are 20 minutes long, sometimes 10 to 20 minutes, and all that work, sitting there conceptually thinking about coming up with content in a focused way that's delivered daily in snack-sized bites is like going to the other end of the spectrum in a way. So to me, it's very daunting. But you yourself said when you started out, you were doing like hour-long things, and you go like, "Whew, that became too taxing and not really what you felt the audience wanted to consume." So it's interesting.
More importantly, it's hard to get the ball rolling when you're not a more regular. I don't want to say consistent, because if you're once a week, you're consistent. But if you're once a week, you're less regular than if you're 5 days a week. If you did something where it was a weekday thing. I thought about doing that, like taking the weekends off and having a weekday thing. But, the way I do batching content, why not have it drop on the weekends too? It doesn't make any sense to cut it out. I'm not actually podcasting on Saturday and Sunday. Yeah. So, why not drop content then too? Because no one else is dropping content on Saturday and Sunday. Those might be the best days. I mean, on YouTube, right?
Yeah, I'm experimenting with Thursday through Sunday delivery, and you hear all kinds of statistics. I think ultimately it's interesting. You have to analyze your own stuff and see your own results and do the experimenting, because I think you're building your audience, and they'll get conditioned, or you'll see less commitment, and there's so many ways to experiment. But I just want to also welcome Doug Hewson joined our chat there, and welcome Doug. And Doug, Crypto Cruising and Beanie Draws and others were all mods on that in real life, and they were on like for hours and hours and hours on end. And I really commend these guys for helping to facilitate that experience in support of the person running. So it's interesting to see how the mod, Todd, plays a role in the whole experience. So I'm just saying, like, being part of that made me see different elements. It's almost like the Ed McMahon for Johnny Carson of my day. They play a supportive role in an experience like that, right? Because you're running almost like a variety show nonstop. And I'm sure we're going to hear more about that from Dan this week. I know he's going to be doing some more live content to talk about his experience. So that's going to be you know,
Yeah, Pam.
really
Pam
cool.
says it here. She did it every day for August. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Gord. I apologize.
Sure,
But,
no, go ahead.
well, I'm thinking about it, and she said it's amazing how the more you create, the more ideas you have to create. She's right about that. I mean, you know, I'll pick a topic for Instagram and I'll end up on a tangent. And it's like, wow, that could be another topic for another show. And by virtue of talking about it, I have to dig deep for minutia to talk about. And sometimes it can be a little bit, it can even reach the point of absurdity. Some of the stuff is so, you know, maybe insignificant, but just because it's insignificant to me doesn't mean it's insignificant to everybody else out there. And, you know, with the Instagram podcast, I have a lot of people that, you know, they reach out to me, and I actually have people that hire me on an hourly rate at an expensive price just to walk them through how to make an Instagram story the first time, if you can believe that.
Well,
So,
I think storytelling can really be an art.
well, but
And
I'm not talking about putting together a story and actually having a story to tell. I'm talking about just working the app. So just like going into the camera feature and just
well, this is a great point. Like, I get a lot of questions on some of my tutorials. So I started to build my email list, create tutorials where I provided project files, so they're like templates, so people get a huge head start. Hey, did you like this? Go for a free download and you can get a head start. Now I'm starting to get emails. Where's the template for this video? Where's the template for that video? So I'm learning they want more of that, right? And I think, you know, I'm just grateful that they're communicating, because to me, that's the biggest struggle. Like, I know someone was on earlier and made the comment that, oh no, it was in a post I read. Harley, his name, was mentioning that your audience is reading and interpreting your analytics to a large degree, because not so many people are necessarily speaking up. So it's becoming a good student of that and knowing how to translate what those numbers are telling you, and in interpreting your content, how to take action to improve upon it, right? But I'm saying, you know, that's to me one of the most interesting challenges of this creative space as compared to working in the past, or when you're at a job and you have a boss and you have coworkers and you're all engaging. It's not like that in the creator space, right? But, you know, you're saying you're getting your regulars and various people are communicating with you more and more, and that must feel good to help you confirm your sense of direction.
Oh yeah. I get the biggest feedback on the little jokes and the various things I do during the show. But I mean, I know people are listening. It's a lot of fun. You know, I got to get more into YouTube. I mean, that's why I go to VidSummit. I have totally ignored YouTube for years. It's been kind of an afterthought, and really the only content on my YouTube channel, which has like less than 300 subscribers, it's mostly my live videos. And that's been an experiment of itself, kind of an unintended experiment, because what I've learned about live videos is that, you know, the value really is there when it's live. There's not a lot of value when it's not live, when in the replay. And the bulk of my channel is just that. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about with Paul, you know, about the life of a video and how it works, that, you know, the how-to videos, Gord, like you do, or how to use Camtasia, or how to use a specific feature within Camtasia, or how to, you know, videos like Sean Cannell does, where it's like, you know, which camera, why I chose this camera. These are things with extremely high value for a very specific purpose. Right. You know, a video on my channel where I interview Ross Brandon, we talk about, you know, we talk about live streaming on Facebook. Not so much. I mean, you know, the people come when it's live, and they're not there when it's not live. So that's why I'm moving my YouTube into less of this, of the live stuff, because, you know, I need to start teaching on YouTube the stuff that I do, and going to things like VidSummit. Hopefully a couple things I achieve. One, I learned some stuff in the conferences, and I learned some amazing stuff in a few of the conferences, just some killer content ideas and how to work it and position it. But also just meeting the people who do it. So I met somebody, Thomas Franks. I did not know who Thomas Franks was before this show. My friend Mike Vardy is good friends with Thomas, and I got to spend probably a couple hours with Thomas Franks and his girlfriend. And Thomas Franks has a YouTube channel that is kind of like teaches you how to study and various things. And I mean, he only has 135 or so videos, but he's got like 1.4 million subscribers. It's extremely high quality videos.
High quality, evergreen,
Yes.
Sort of pro level execution. And you know what I find so fascinating is that you're actually talking about crossing over more into what I do, and I'm looking to cross over more into what you're doing. It's kind of interesting. Right. So I'm sure we can share some interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you do it all. I think you do it all. And, I am going to do live videos on YouTube, but I look at what Nick Nimmin does. He does channel reviews and he has like kind of a variety show where they do all sorts of things for 6 hours at a time. I'm never going to do it like that. It's too long. I'd have to run to the bathroom 6 times in an episode. But, like I said, I drink all this water. But, it's interesting. I have the Grammar School podcast. I could easily do a Nick style show where I'm putting my Instagram on the screen and I'm, analyzing people's accounts and saying, this is what's working. This isn't what's working. And maybe try to generate some interest that way. I mean, by going to these shows and getting to know the creators who are doing things differently than me, it opens up all sorts of ideas for things that I'm doing. And so I can morph and pivot and evolve as Simply Beth. Simply Beth is, she's knocking it out of the ballpark with thoughtful comments today. Not that others aren't, but she's been on target. Every time I look at the screen, her comments are jumping right out at me.
That's awesome, and I'm really enjoying this. And I see we have a very active chat, and that's really great to see. And you raised it, and I love this point. You never know who you're going to meet at the conference and what perspective they're going to share about creating. And I think to me, often to hear people's stories about creating and being a content creator, and it has nothing to do with what you're doing. It may trigger an idea in your head that oh, you know what, I could twist that and probably do something like this creatively myself. And I find, and I don't know if you feel this way, maybe that's part of the reason why you're stretching now, going now into more into the considering the tutorial and the teaching side on video, is that I don't know how you produce the volume of content that you do and have an endless supply of those ideas. How do you keep it fresh for you? I guess that's what I want to know. And does that have something to do with the diversification, or is it solely as a means to satisfy your audiences demanding it, or your passion is there?
It's really all of the above. I am a tremendous introvert. That probably too has a lot to do with why I don't work the crowd and try to get in on as many collaborations as I can, or even any. Like I don't even, I'm an introvert. I don't feel comfortable. And we talked a little bit about this yesterday, but when I see, let's say I'm walking through the hall, mm-hmm. and I've already talked to Nick and Nick Nimmin and Dee, and we've hung out for 15 minutes, chit chatting and whatever. And 2 hours later, I walk through the hall and I see them talking to Evan Carmichael. I'm probably not going to go and interrupt their conversation,
right?
Even though they might not care if I interrupt their conversation. I'm just going to assume that, look, those guys are with Evan right now. Either they're getting FaceTime with Evan or Evan's getting FaceTime with them. And I don't want to, it's kind of like The Bachelor, that cheesy, stupid show Bachelor. Like, a guy goes off with a girl to sit on a bench somewhere and all the guys are wondering who's going to be the one to walk over and break it up and interrupt. I kind of feel like I'd be that guy interrupting. So, there's plenty of people that I know at the show that if I see them busy talking to somebody, unless the circumstances present itself to make it comfortable, I'm going to pass on and keep moving. And that probably has more to do with me than it does them. I'm assuming things, maybe, but I am a tremendous introvert. I don't mind shaking hands and getting to know people, but I like giving people their space. I don't like putting people on the spot. I don't want to be that guy that, if I walk through the hall at Social Media Marketing World, everyone's thinking, oh, if you have eye contact with Todd, he's going to join us when we're trying to do something here. I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
So I pick and choose my moments, but I find, in answer to your question, I find that podcasting is a tremendous outlet for me to speak my mind, speak my thoughts, share what I know, whatever, and the chips fall where they may. I don't do a lot of promoting of the podcast. I let it be word of mouth. I do promote it some here and there, but not a tremendous amount.
Yeah.
But it's as much about me as it is anyone else. And I do have the consumer in mind, but I do it for me. I mean, if no one was listening, maybe I'd turn it off. But look, Entrepreneur Live Video has been a slow growth. I mean, it's been a slow growth. where I have 800 downloads in a day on Grammar School, I might have 50 in a day on Entrepreneur Live Video on some day. I am higher than that most days, but there's a lot of days where I just have 50 downloads. And but I keep doing it because I believe in it. I believe there's 50 people out there that are getting a tremendous amount of value. I think in the long run, it's going to pay me dividends by being the guy talking about it for so long, by being the guy with the 2 podcasts, by willing to do it, all that.
I just had an idea. Sorry to interrupt. I'm so excited about this.
Go ahead.
Todd needs to create a course. It's called Podcasting for the Introvert. Yeah. And because what's interesting about this is because you're getting at so many psychological elements here, like it's kind of cathartic for you to be doing and expressing this way. It's the same thing for me. I'm an introvert by nature, and these people that know me for the longest time now that I've been trying to do the live stuff, like people like Eileen and Andrew and Naomi and others, they see me and yourself start to see me coming out more and more, getting more comfortable and whatever. But after I finish this experience, it feels like a bit of a high. I got that dopamine rush, and I go, I'm not really getting it by nature, like you're saying. If you were in the position of working the hall in the summit, you're not going to be out there, coming up and slapping your arm around Evan C. and saying, hey, Evan, buddy, how's it going? Saw you at whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah. So right. I think it's very interesting that you're saying this, that the value that this is giving you in terms of your own personal satisfaction of life experience.
Right. It is. I do it, like I said, I do it as much for me as for the listener. I try to keep the listener in mind, but it's just my out. I was kind of that way with live video too. Just like somebody said it here a minute ago, they're an introvert until they're in a conference with like-minded people. I'm a lot the same way, but I still try to. I like to give others space. I don't want to be that guy that shows up at all the inopportune times. I realize that people at conferences are talking business or talking collaborations, and maybe I don't fit into that discussion. So, I find my moments to join in with people. I mentioned earlier in this video that when I was looking for Reezy Resells, who's a good friend of mine, one of the first creators I met online back in the Snapchat days, I walked out on that patio and Michael Stelzner and Carlos Gill and Mitch Dong were sitting at that table. I didn't know Mitch at the time. I didn't know who he was, but I do now. But I knew who Carlos Gill and Michael was. I would have never in a million years just walked up to that table and said, hey, can I join you guys? No, it's not happening. Even though I know them, I've met them both on several occasions. The fact that Mike he waved at me and said, hey, Todd, what are you up to? You want to join us? And of course I'm going to join you. But I just try to be mindful of it. I come out of the shell when I can, and I don't when I think it is inappropriate or maybe, other people are wanting time, but the podcast is great. It's great therapy. That's why when I tell people I'm thinking about a third podcast, it'll probably be like an asterisk daily or daily with an asterisk behind it, because it probably won't be strictly daily like I am with my other shows, but it would be close. And it would be more of just like you talked about, I could do, introvert podcaster or introvert broadcaster or daily broadcaster, or just life of a creator, somebody who's trying to, get as much information out there, quality information as they can, and figuring out this puzzle of too many platforms and platform. I mean, look, anybody in your crowd, everyone in your crowd, you've got 15 people watching right now. Everyone knows exactly what I'm talking about when I say, there's so many platforms. I don't know where to be. I can't manage it all by myself. I'm there too. And that's in a lot of the ways who I'm talking to. People who would love to have a daily podcast, people who would love to publish on Instagram every day, and do multiple of these things. That's my crowd. If you want to learn how to do this stuff and learn how to manage the madness of it, that's what I do. And that's what I coach, and along with the specifics of each individual thing. So cast a wide net, but Gord, I'll tell you, the conference, they wear me out quick. The volume of talking that you do there. Oh, yeah.
I'm totally spent after any conference, because it's taking me so out of my comfort zone, and just the energy to exist and function and experience and take it in, and keep being introduced to new people, or be in situations where you want to be on and you want to have good energy, and at the same time you're like, I could use an hour break right now.
Right.
You know what I mean? But you keep going, right?
Yeah, exactly. Andrew and Simply Beth both said they're talking here about you don't really have to self-promote if the quality is there. I totally believe that. If you're confident in what you're producing, the people will come, and you have various snowball moments. I mean, my podcast will snowball. I'll get these massive growth, and then it'll plateau for a couple of weeks, and then another massive growth. And each time there's massive growth, it's bigger than the last time. So it's just a matter, it's just a matter of time. But just finding your comfort level and being around the people at VidSummit. I mean, we're all doing the same kind of a thing with different twists. And it's going back to one of our original premises. The value of going to these things is just huge. You don't want to miss them if you have the opportunity to.
And I think we also get to see people on another level of their own journey and experience, right? Because you're around those people talking about what are the issues to them. Like when you're sitting around a table with a Steve Dotto or a Michael Stelzner, you're hearing about their real problems and interesting challenges. And it's not just about them being on video, being in a show. Now you're like in the real moment with them. And that's where I think the real magic comes in. And we end up realizing that, we all have our stuff that we want to go through and experience to improve and get better and build confidence and put ourselves out there. And that's why when I say podcasting for the introvert, you take someone like me, a lot of people after I did my interview with Dean Nimmin recently said, "Oh, why aren't you podcasting now?" And that's just like, I love interviewing, but it means stepping up, making other levels of commitment. Well, this is the kind of thing, Todd, that I think from your experience, you can share and help people get to that level or know how to work through what the challenges are.
Well, think about this too, that, it's a lot of work to have an interview, whether you're doing it online, live with video, or if you're doing podcasting. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of, it's very time consuming. You're dealing with scheduling snafus, with having to set up a time, and then somebody always has to reschedule it. I mean, it can be very frustrating, and there's a lot of value in interviewing. I love interviewing. I love being on shows like your show. I was on Brad Friedman's show not too long ago. I love being on Digital Slice. I've been on
Brad does an awesome job in the interviews.
He does. And there's a lot to be gained from interviews. I think they're a huge part of what you do.
Yes.
But I think it's also very important, particularly when it comes to audio, to be able to carry the show on your own, because you're going to have to. If you're wanting to do more regular content than once a week, you're going to have to carry the show on your own. And so what you do is you whittle it down to the time that makes sense, that you can manage, and you carry the water for yourself. And if you can generate a crowd, here's one thing I've learned. If you can generate an audience when you're the only one doing the talking, like 90 or 99% of the time, you're doing something right. Something's resonating with the people out there. It's a real test of what you're doing when you carry the crowd on your own. And I think a lot of the YouTube creators like yourself, you've got your channel and you present, tutorials on Camtasia and how-tos and various things. And, every once in a while you have somebody come in, sure, but you're carrying the water on that venue, and you're doing very well at it. And it's a good measure of your success. I mean, your channel's growing at a great rate. You've got a great amount of people that are truly into what you're doing. And so I think that as a creator, collaborating is great, but dial it in and do your own work too. First of all, I thought about this one time when I was podcasting a lot of interviews, no one was really ever learning about me ever. I mean, like, I have this show and I work my butt off for it, and no one's really ever hearing about my perspective because I'm just the guy doing the interviews all the time. So I started thinking, I got to do some solo so people start learning about me and my thoughts, and, give or take whether they like it or not. It's a good thing. I'm actually thinking about doing an interview thing for LinkedIn, and I'll probably do it with a twist so that I'm doing a lot of interviewing, but I let my guest interview me some too.
Yeah.
So that
I'm still on the list, Todd. I'm supposed to be interviewed by Todd when he gets back in interviews, and we're waiting a while.
I know. I haven't done it. I don't think I've had an interview done since May. I haven't done, or I haven't.
Well, I know it was April when we did our first interview.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've done an interview. I need to start doing interviews again for grammar school. I do those interviews inside of Instagram Live, and
yeah, you do that, right? Exactly.
The tech is challenging though. Sometimes the tech doesn't want to cooperate with you there. But I need to do that. The Entrepreneur Live video, I don't know if I'll do a lot of interviews there as much. But that's probably where you and I would do an interview. But if I start doing what I'm planning to do on LinkedIn, you're definitely going to be a guest there, because that's going to be kind of a special thing. LinkedIn video is very, very special, folks. If you're not using LinkedIn video, one thing I've learned from the last couple conferences I've been at is LinkedIn video is on fire.
Okay.
100 million people use it every day, and only 500 people a day upload videos. And
also, doesn't LinkedIn content return nicely in search as well? It seems to get priority ranking.
It does. I personally don't like LinkedIn for a lot of reasons. It feels corporate, and that just, I don't have anything to do with it. But on the other hand, the reach is undeniable. The people that are really working LinkedIn hard are getting opportunities like mad.
Our buddy Professor Nez is one particular case in that.
Well,
right.
This has been one of my problems, right? The podcast and Instagram aren't getting me in front of the people that are paying clients, but YouTube and LinkedIn will. So I've got to really mix it up and get in front of these other audiences, because I think both LinkedIn and YouTube are key if you're wanting to grow your business. You can't ignore them.
Yeah, and I totally agree, and it's interesting to see how the different platforms are evolving, and when a new feature comes out in one or another. But I just find there's so much to try and keep up with. Now, I wanted to ask you about repurposing and tri-casting, multicasting. There was a time, I recall, and refresh my memory, where you used to have sometimes like 2 or 3 iPads going, and you'd be in like Periscope, you're in Snapchat, you're in Facebook, and you're in, where does that all fit now, and how has the technology changed, and what direction are you going in?
Well, your audience sees the iPads behind me on the stand. That's an Archon mount stand with iPads connected there. So if I want, I can use those. In fact, there's another microphone there. You can barely see it sticking out of the side of the picture. I can go live over there if I want to, but it's a lot easier to go live. If I want to go live to multiple platforms, I use Wirecast as my broadcast tool. And then I use Switchboard Live. I'm friends with the people at Switchboard Live. In fact, I have a call with them tomorrow. And I use that I put the API keys in there and everything. So if I want to go to YouTube, Periscope, Twitch, Facebook, whatever, can't go to Instagram Live as of now, and maybe never. Although Stephanie Liu had a video out recently where she found out how to go live on Instagram through your computer. So I haven't had a chance to check that out yet, but that's very intriguing. But look, here's the thing. When I got started in live video, I saw another mention of Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm not a fanboy, folks, just to let you know. He's just so huge, and you see him everywhere you go. I saw him when I was first getting started out. I was homesick with the flu, and he was promoting the book Ask Gary V, and he went live on 8 platforms for 8 hours to promote the video, to promote the book.
Right.
And he was selling tons of copies of his book, and I was home with the flu, and I watched the whole 8 hours, and I was just dazzled with him going live on 8 platforms at the same time. And this was like 3 years ago, so the tech wasn't there, so he had multiple iPhones and things going on. So I was like, okay, I'm going to figure out how to do all this with the audio and everything. Figured it all out. Then Switchboard came along, and I was able to do it without extra devices. And I figured all that out. I had to figure out OBS and Wirecast. I didn't like OBS at all, but I loved Wirecast. So I quickly snapped that up and started using it. But then came Instagram Live, which turned it all on its head, because Instagram Live is a no-frills live video platform. There's no lower thirds. There's no screenshots. There's no stuff. You can't really do anything to really up the production value of your broadcast. Now, in trade, you get a huge audience of people who are playing with Instagram all day, who are going to come in and watch your video. So I was noticing that when I would go live on Instagram, sometimes I'd have close to 20 people Like the first time I ever went live, first couple times I ever went live on there, I'd have lots of people. When I'd go live on or on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope with professional broadcasts and beautiful graphics and interesting guests and everything, I might have 2 or 3, 5 people across all the platforms. And it was just like, wow, Instagram's really knocking it out of the ballpark with your ability to get in front of people. People just aren't playing with YouTube the way they do Instagram. They're not playing with Facebook or Periscope the way they are Instagram. People are scrolling Instagram. They get a little notification that says Todd.LIVE is live. Yeah, maybe I'll go in there and watch it for a little bit. And all of a sudden the room has got 20 people in there.
Yeah.
So it's go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, like, I haven't really explored using the Instagram live stuff yet. I've just been sharing my videos in 1-minute video clips to share people, to let them know it's over on YouTube, because I haven't got into the sense of owning what I'm going to do for content to share that I think is relevant for that platform. More behind the scenes stuff, more introspective, and I think I want to do some inspirational stuff. But for some reason I'm feeling, and that's why I asked you about this, I'm kind of feeling like I've done so much of like what I'm doing, and to do these experiments could really help me go to the next level. But I've just been resisting. It's just like a struggle I fight with. But yet I know to be inspired creatively, I need to do some of these things. And it would be cool to hear, just like me sitting here telling you, we're here for the length of time. We are having an amazing chat, and the people are participating, and there's great dialogue going on there. And, before, when I was starting to go live, I was like afraid I couldn't last a half an hour. But if I'm interviewing somebody, because of my nature, I'll go as long as it works, but I make sure that we're delivering the value in terms of my preparation for it. Others, like yourself, may have the ability to just do that naturally on your own. So we all come with a different makeup to the table. But I'm saying I'm learning now with my abilities in the interviewing experience that my potential is showing nicely here. Maybe it's time to do that podcast. Maybe it's time to start to do some short Instagram live things, right? So much of it, just like you're starting to want to go and up your production value on some of your Instagram videos and stuff that you share, because you saw how the response was, that until we put ourselves out there, we're not going to know.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to know. And you always have to try. Now, one thing one of your friends said here is, be careful not to end up the master of none. Simply, I keep thinking it says simply Lee. Simply is just on target. Yeah, I fear of that, being the master of none, because I do so many different things to promote what I'm doing that I'm the master of none. I do think that
you mean
my
being
audience
too diverse, and getting too thin.
But maybe to newcomers, I don't even know if that, but people, the people that are in my audience, they get what I'm doing, and they know I'm all about broadcasting and finding ways to broadcast efficiently so that you can broadcast out to multiple places, and you've got the time to do it, and you're not driving yourself nuts. Eileen asked if I thought LinkedIn would ever have live video. I'm sure they will at some point, but right now you're limited to 10-minute videos at the most. So, but it's nice though, because you can upload them from your computer, and you can put them in Premiere Pro and do whatever you need to do, ScreenFlow or Camtasia, whatever is your fancy, and you can make some nice videos for LinkedIn. LinkedIn's tricky though. Some videos you'll wonder why they got the reach, and other videos you think are dazzling and they don't really go far. So it's dialing in what works for that channel. I don't think that you can take videos that you're posting on Instagram and go throw them in LinkedIn. That's not the same.
That raises a great question about repurposing, right? So some things you can, like, so I'll take a clip or snippet out of my YouTube to repurpose for snackability and cross promotability on Instagram, and that works.
Oh, but does it work? Okay.
Well, I find my audience isn't that big.
Oh,
I mean, I'm not that committed in the sense of regular publishing on Instagram, but my views seem to increase over time with what I post there. But I think I don't want to go to another platform unless I can do it justice for what the kind of consumer is there that resonates with me. And to me, that's largely a discovery process at this stage. And that's where I get into the, that's why I drew in the pivot question earlier. I don't know whether it's really pivoting or it's really just diversifying or adding another dimension to what you're doing, you know, because I'm not going on Instagram Live to do tutorials.
Right.
You know, maybe I'm wrong. A 5-minute thing on how to do a tip, maybe that works. I haven't tried any of it.
Let me tell you something though. I did a tutorial on Instagram once or twice. People loved it. Now here's what I had to do. Okay. They loved it. They were like, can we get more content? I actually had several people private message me, say, could you do more of that kind of stuff on Instagram? I would love that. And here's what I did. I mean, you can have an iPhone and an iPad, but you have to have 2 devices because Instagram is a device platform. But I have 2 iPhones. And so I put one iPhone in a tripod. And well, the one I was filming with, I had in a tripod, and I kind of positioned it with my hands out like this, and the tripod was coming up in between, and that way I could work my phone. And I was showing people how to do things with an app or whatever it is I was showing them, and people were dazzled. They loved it. I've done it too, where I've had the phone in a tripod, and I pointed it at I've got a 27-inch computer screen off camera here, and I got the part of the shot that I wanted into the camera, and I was able to use my mouse and show them how to do something. Now, I don't think that's a place where you schedule and do 1-hour tutorials, but I think it's a place where
do quick things.
Do quick things. It's like, hey, I learned a new trick today, because it's going to be up for 24 hours and people are going to see it. And that way it's not a heavy commitment of an hour. Like it's got to be some major production and some major insightful thing you're providing. Maybe it's just a really quick thing. Like maybe you've come to the conclusion that you're not going to use the hashtags on YouTube anymore, because people might click them and leave your video and you don't see the value in it when there's that much detriment. And so maybe you're going to be on the camera for a minute where it's facing you, and then you hit the button to flip it and you say, okay, so here's a video with some hashtags and look at the drop-off rate. Maybe you just show them something. I mean, there's all sorts of things that you can do.
This is all about experimenting, but I think if you explore your screen flow, you have the ability to integrate a screencast executed type of content right from your phone, and it can be carried through in ScreenFlow. So you have a lot of potential with some of the tools that you have to explore doing some of those things in a very cool way. So I think that's great. So we still have quite a busy chat going on here.
You do. I've got a little bit of time left. When we're having a good time, and you've got 15 people in here, I hate to quit when it's nice and strong.
Yeah, I was going to say, someone mentioned the idea, and it's a while back in the chat, about the fear of dealing with coming into the room and like there's nobody there and they need to carry it and go. Fortunately, in whatever time I've had in the experience, I haven't had that, but it's kind of like without the chat there, then I'm focused in a different way with the guest. Like my eyes dart around a lot because I'm trying to take in the chat at the same time, and that adds another dimension to the experience for you as a person, you know, running the show, trying to experience it. But like when you were doing your live experiences, I actually hear you talk out, hey, it looks like you know, if you know, I saw Ivan Carmichael the other day, hey, I'm going to try this thing, it's new today, you know, I'm waiting for people to show up, like where is everybody? And he's like having a dialogue with the air, but he's carrying the show in a masterful way. And that's where people like me will feel challenged, for the introvert, where and you say you feel the same. I mean, being an introvert, dealing with that dead space and knowing you have an audience there.
Well, I when I start a video, I start talking immediately. I mean, I treat it like I've already got an audience. Any video I start and just go right into it. And if people come in a minute or two later and they might have missed something important, then, oh, well, they missed something important, because your live videos have to be ready. Hey, there's Larry Snow. I haven't seen him in a while.
Nice to see you, Larry. And Dan Norton's back in.
Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
Your videos are going to have more value in the short term in the replay. You're going to get more viewers in the replay in the short term. When I talked about the longevity of a live video, and like my channel's full of live videos that pretty much are duds as far as my catalog goes, because nobody's looking at them. They're old. I mean, they're 6-8 months old, but in the short term, they have a life still, and the bulk of your viewers are going to be in the replay, and you got to capture their attention right at the start. So, I mean, when I start a live video, I go right into it. I don't do this, oh, we need to wait a minute. Somebody will be here in a minute. Once it gets to 5 people, then I'll kind of dive into what I want to talk about. No, you dive into it immediately, and it is what it is. Now, the problem with that is, and with Instagram, it takes a minute for people to get notified. Really, all the platforms, it takes a minute for people to get notified. So treat it like the show began, but make it so that you can reiterate.
Maybe you do some general announcements and tell them about things upcoming and other stuff while you build the audience in. But this, if I could, oh, sorry, did you have something else?
Oh no,
to say
well, I did have a point before it scrolled off the screen. Launchpad says he thinks LinkedIn would be good for business, career, for professional development videos. Not sure if it works for channels like mine or for tutorials. I don't disagree with the tutorial thing.
You don't disagree? You mean you think LinkedIn won't work for the tutorial person?
Well, it may or may not. I haven't really given that a chance yet. But he puts in there, I think LinkedIn would be good for business, career, professional. Now, I agree, career, professional, because that's kind of what LinkedIn is. Like, if you want to get a job, that's the place to be. But business is a whole nother word. Business can be like, I want paying customers. I want that kind of business. Like, I want people to find me and pay me.
Yeah.
Okay. A couple of my most recent clients, I have somebody who is married to a very famous rock and roll star who's got an exercise business, who's one of my clients. She's got a wealth of people that she could probably tap into, that she hired me. I wondered at first, but I'm helping her out. I have another client, both of them female, of course. All of my paying clients seem to be Gen X females, but another one is a very techie hypnotist, very intelligent, very accomplished hypnotist. And she wanted to, make her studio nicer, and she's hired me for various things. But, the point is that these are people that likely are going to be more on LinkedIn than they are going to be on Instagram. These are professionals. These are people in the workspace. These are people out there who are building their network in their profession, and they spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. And, they're hiring me for things that, I mean, both of them probably could either do themselves, or in the case of the one married to a rock and roll star. I mean, when it comes to, I'm teaching audio and stuff, and I mean, they're in the music industry. I mean, certainly they know people, right? So, I think that whatever your business is, if you're wanting paying clients and you're wanting to sell courses or whatever, I think LinkedIn for just about anybody's probably going to be a pretty decent platform. You won't know for sure until you give it a good, strong go. But I think that there's people there that are looking to spend money.
Yeah. I think I'm going to be an interesting test case, because I'm going to share something with people that's kind of interesting that they wouldn't know. I have not updated my LinkedIn profile in 9 years because it's stuck with the identity of my previous jobs. I was an IT director in business intelligence, working for large corporation consulting firms and everything. I still get job postings in my email for senior project manager, leader, and all stuff tech. But the irony is, I am missing out, because I believe, even though my stuff is a lot about how to, there are tons of business people that need what I have to offer. And I think I just need to be smart about how I present the problems or things that I solve, and what my skill brings to the table, and what groups I participate in, because there are groups to participate in with people with similar skills and other stuff. So I'm sure connections can happen, and through search, people will find out through referrals. It's going to be interesting, because I am going to go there. I've resisted, because for me personally, it's had to do with letting go of the past. But I know that I keep hearing you're missing out on all kinds of opportunity.
Yeah, I was at VidSummit. I had a guy come up and wanted to take a picture of my camera and ask me some questions about it. And he's thinking about getting into live video. He's thinking about getting into stuff for. He's representing his company. And he says that they don't know anything about doing live video. They don't have any equipment. They don't even know where to start. Nothing. They're just, they're totally. And I said, well, what kind of business do you do? And he says, well, we're 3M Corp. I'm like, wow. And you don't know anything about live video, and you don't have resources, and you don't have people, and you don't have, no. And we're 3M Corp. Okay. There's a guy from 3M Corp at VidSummit talking to me about my camera and wanting to know, where my podcast is, where my website is, so that, but he might, I don't know if he'll contact me or not. I'd love it if he does. I'd be kind of surprised if he does, being that they're a huge corporation with an unlimited budget. But, that's the kind of person you're going to find on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah. Well, in fact,
they're looking to spend money.
Exactly that. I've had people reach out to me through my YouTube videos. They work for big universities and they're in their learning divisions, and they're saying, thank God for your videos. I've learned so much of what I need to succeed in my job from your teaching. And then I go, wow, now I need to start to get out there and promote myself as someone that can help them produce their product and be additional resource to help them succeed in their projects. And I haven't done that. And LinkedIn shows you can showcase your skill to represent that as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to be in front of people that are spending money. And look, I love Instagram. I think it's an important place to be. It's an important place to build an audience. But let's face it, Instagram isn't people looking to spend money all day long, or to build their professional network all day long. But LinkedIn is. YouTube is. YouTube, people go there to get questions answered. When they have a question about Camtasia, they find Gord and a connection is made, right? So there's certain platforms that are good for that. I think that Instagram and podcasting and Facebook and other things, they bolster what you're doing on the other platforms. But I've come to the realization after 3 years that, and I've ignored both platforms, YouTube and LinkedIn, and it's not a desperation play. It's not a, oh man, nothing else is working, I better be there. It's just that by working all these other things, it's taken me a while to really think about, as I grow my business and I want more paying customers, where do I really need to be to start attracting these people at scale? And it is places like YouTube and LinkedIn. And the barrier for me on YouTube was just, I didn't know how to edit videos. And I was concerned that I wouldn't know how to do it and it'd take me forever to figure it out. And that was just all stupid crap. Now you discovered products like ScreenFlow and Camtasia, which is similar. You realize now that you can get a lot of things done fairly quickly, that you don't need to be a high-end Premiere Pro guy in order to deliver the quality you want to deliver. Well, and I've got Premiere because I have the Adobe Creative Cloud. So I've wanted to teach myself it, but it's one of those things that, when am I going to ever have the time to sit down and teach myself this? And I started doing that a couple months ago, and it's amazing how fast that you learn this stuff.
Sure.
And how you can make videos better than a lot of people out there with very little effort, if you just apply yourself and you're willing to get rid of the fear. And so now I'm able to take on projects like YouTube and LinkedIn the way I want to do LinkedIn, because I want to do LinkedIn video. I'm a video guy for the most part. I know I do a lot of audio, but I think LinkedIn video, when they say that I think it's something like 100 million people use it every day across the planet, and only 500 people upload a video each day.
Wow.
That's really amazing.
What an opportunity, isn't it?
It's an opportunity, yes. And
I better get on it. Larry Snow's saying it looks like he's using it, LinkedIn, and that he's, he says universities have asked me to use my videos via LinkedIn. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and LinkedIn's trying. I think they're trying to ditch this stodgy corporate feel, which I don't think they've come anywhere close to ditching yet, but I think they're trying to make it so that people that are serious, think about it. Instagram, everybody's got a code name, a handle, but on LinkedIn, people are supposedly using their real name. You're making real connections with real people. And I just think it's a fabulous platform if you want to drive in business. And from what I understand, they were pushing this hard at Grow with Video Live with Sean Cannell, which was really surprising. I thought it would be more YouTube, and it was more YouTube, but it was a lot more LinkedIn than I didn't even think we'd hear about LinkedIn. And Brittany Crystal came to speak, and then Sean also spoke about it. And Sean said that if YouTube wasn't there, that LinkedIn would be the #1 video platform he'd be concerned with right now. And that's saying a lot, I think. When you've got Facebook and Instagram and these other things, that his #1 platform, if you take YouTube off the table, is LinkedIn. That's a bold statement.
So I guess Grow with Video was not just about YouTube. It was about a lot more.
It was about a lot more. Yes, it was. They cast a wide net. It was a good learning experience. It was, You know, it might've been short on very specific things as far as like nuts and bolts. Like we didn't talk about how to do a thumbnail or, you know, what's the best way to research tags. We talked more about, you know, this is the possibilities if you're doing, you know, certain things and applying yourself. So it was a good show. I thought it was a great show, actually, especially for the first time coming out. He came out with a bang as far as I was concerned.
Yeah. And his motto is what? Impact, influence, and income, or something to that effect. And so that diversity he covers, and I think that's what's very interesting. The business side is very important in Sean's material and what he brings in terms of value to people, right? And I guess you got a lot of that at that conference, right?
Yeah, it was a fantastic show. I got to hang out with Mike Vardy, who's become a good friend of mine. We've attended a lot of conferences together. You know, we kind of plan out, are you going to be there or are you not? And splitting hotel rooms and to make it less expensive so we can go to more things. That's where I met the vidIQ guys for the first time. They were at that show. Andrew, you guys weren't there. I was surprised you guys weren't, or I don't think you were there. If you were, I missed you entirely, but there weren't many vendors at Sean's event. I imagine next year there will be more because it was a great venue at the Red Rock Casino. And it was a great show. He had great speakers there. My favorite speaker was Brittany Crystal. Look up Brittany Crystal. She's a LinkedIn kind of a guru, worked with, she probably would hate that I said that word and put it to her, but she is a big cheerleader for LinkedIn. She worked with Gary Vaynerchuk for a few years in New York City, and she's a recovering attorney like myself. And she just was fabulous. I mean, very low key, but her words packed a punch. And she's got me sold on the power of LinkedIn. I can't even believe I say it, but it's true. But yeah, it was a great show. I mean, Grow with Video Live was fantastic.
Yeah. So I can see there's a lot of impetus here for us all to explore the potentials of LinkedIn. And I know it's something on my list to do. And I was going to ask you, Todd, sort of, you know, we still have a very active chat, but I was thinking that, you know, in consideration for your time and everyone, that maybe we wrap up shortly. And I wanted to ask a couple of closing questions.
Sure, let's do it.
Given what you've learned in the last year, having attended so many conferences, do you still plan to go to like that many again next year? And like, what are the must attends? And yeah, like, is there something you're doing personally to gear up? Like, do you have ambitions to participate in them in another way?
Yeah, well, I'd like to speak. I'd like to get into speaking. It's obvious to me that there's a few people out there who are interested in exploring the idea of me speaking on their stage. So I'm really excited about that. Some big shows that seem to, you know, I have kind of had some feelers come my way. So we'll see how that goes. So I'd love to speak. As far as next year's conferences go, I'm going to try to do World Domination Summit because there's only going to be 2 years of that left. That he's going to end it at 10 years. That is an awesome summit. But for most people, this is a personal development summit more than it is a tech and a live video and a social media. This is a personal development.
Where's that hosted again?
It's in Portland, Oregon, and it's just an amazing experience. The politics don't quite align with mine, but I don't care. It's just one of those experiences and it's in Portland. So if that tells you anything about the politics, but Chris Guillebeau puts on the most fun show. It's so much fun. The people that are there, it's just a delight from beginning to end. It's a long week. It's like when I go to World Domination Summit, I'm there for like 8 days. I mean, it's a long week in the summertime.
Yeah.
But that's I missed it this year because of a wedding, but I'm going to try to go the next 2 years. Social Media Marketing World is one not to be missed. I think VidSummit's getting that way. I think this year I can honestly say that it's a bad move if you're in any kind of video to miss VidSummit. VidCon is more like a theme park with some creator stuff in it. If VidCon was like VidCon London, I would never travel to London to go to VidCon. I wouldn't travel to New York or Atlanta or anywhere else to go to VidCon. It's not that valuable of an experience to me. However, it is in Anaheim, which is 15 minutes away from my home. So I will not miss it so long as it's in Anaheim. It provides tremendous value to someone who lives 15 miles away, like me. I will do it. Traffic and conversion, I'll be there. Social media marketing world. I don't know what else there is, what else I attended this year, but Grow with Video Live. That just depends on my availability because I travel out of state for that one.
Isn't
I
Grow
will
with
try
Video Live doing some kind of like satellite events as well? Like not just in Vegas?
I don't know what they're doing. I see that Sean and Benji are promoting their book, and they're, like today they had an ad on LinkedIn that said Provo. So they're doing something in Provo, Utah. So I think that what they're doing is they're hosting a lot of little meetups, and they teach. They probably have a little workshop and they sell their book. And I don't know. I'm just assuming. I have no idea if maybe they're giving everyone their book. I don't know what they're doing, but I know they're kind of on a little tour. It was a great show. I'm just exhausted. I don't have any more shows to go through to the end of the year. And
you can catch your breath now.
Although Mike Vardy was talking to me the other day about the Patreon conference in Los Angeles in November. So I don't know if I'll add that to my list or not. I really don't want to. I'm kind of worn out, but
how far is LA from where you live?
If the traffic's not bad, a half hour. If the traffic's bad, it could be 4 hours.
Yeah.
I'm like 35 miles from downtown LA.
Yeah.
So it's not far, but these events are usually over by, I think, Daryl Eves' event is over by LAX. So that's about 40 miles from me, but, because you kind of have to go northwest, sure. But, I don't know where the Patreon event is. I imagine it's, up by LAX too. Cause there's a lot of convention area up there. Patreon is going to be great. I maybe need to go, dude. I hope to go, kind of. I'm tired. I mean, I'm worn out.
Well, you'll have to share with us on another visit if you go and on your other experiences. And it's been such a pleasure to have you here today, Todd. We always have a nice conversation, and I so appreciate all of you in chat. I mean, I'm just blown away by the participation and the great questions and dialogue that went on there. And thank you all. And,
yeah, we've had the bulk of your audience has been with us for almost 3 hours here. So thank you all. It's great to see you, Andrew. Wish I got to spend more time with you at this conference. Like I said earlier today, I know people get busy and, you want to meet new clients and you want to meet people. I hope to see you again soon and spend some more time with you and everybody else in the list. I mean, feel free to reach out to me anytime at Todd.LIVE on Instagram. I treat the private messaging there like it's email service. And I'm very responsive, and I'd love to hear from any of you anytime. Awesome. And thank you, Gord, for having me on your show.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and I really enjoyed it. And we'll do this again sometime soon, and I look forward to seeing how you dive deeper into the video and your experience there, and you'll be able to help me diving into podcasting or Instagram. So it's kind of awesome that we can share our journeys and challenges at an interesting time of crossover in terms of experience. So I think that's really cool. And thanks everyone again. Thank you, Andrew, for the good words. Andrew says he loved the stream. And Dan too, and Larry, we're getting a lot of good feedback here. So
you got a lot of great people in your audience, a lot to be thankful for here when you have such awesome people commenting and enjoying the show. And I'm very thankful to have been a part of it today.
Oh, thanks again. So everyone, thank you. And there's more interviews coming soon. I'm trying to step up like I did in my personal challenge last February when we had the YouTube partner program, and I think I'm getting my energy back to do this more and bring things to another level, and maybe with a little push from Todd, we'll see me in podcasting.
Hey, I'll help you in any way I can, my friend. You know that.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, thank you everyone, and take care, and we'll see you soon.
Take care, folks. Thank you again, Gord.
Okay. Let's see.